Chapter 949. A peace of mind they can't come. When Guli spoke of this, he seemed completely at ease. In order to convince Black Dragon, he even stretched lazily. They can't even take care of themselves right now, yet they still want to protect us? It seems that's impossible. Black Dragon, who was just about to retreat, stopped and gestured at the demons. The retreating demons all stopped. They really didn't understand what His Excellency Black Dragon was up to. One moment, he wanted to retreat, the next he wanted to stop. Guli, just how many more things are you hiding from me? Black Dragon gazed darkly at Guli. The three realms couldn't come. For him to say that with such certainty, he definitely had a meticulous plan. Perhaps his forces had already infiltrated the various realms. Seeing this, Black Dragon panicked slightly. Was it possible that Guli's people were among the demons behind him as well? Your Excellency Black Dragon, why are you looking at me like that? I'm a coward. What if you scare me? Guli feigned an aggrieved expression. Even if I have 10,000 tricks up my sleeves, we're not enemies. Your Excellency Black Dragon, why take it to heart? Since we're allies, can we make it clear whether or not we've surrendered? Black Dragon snorted angrily, his expression dark. I never would have guessed that Guli would be able to infiltrate the three realms. Should I admire you or admire you? Your Excellency Black Dragon, what are you talking about? Whether it's the former or the latter, aren't you admiring me in the end? He smiled at Black Dragon, then seemed to sense Black Dragon's unrelenting vigilance. He shrugged helplessly and smiled bitterly. Fine, then I'll tell you. In truth, we've been infiltrating the three realms since a year ago. Boom! Two fists collided. Oxhead's eyes widened, his nostrils fuming with white smoke. Across from him stood one of the 10 ghost marshals of the underworld, Leopard Tail. He smiled calmly and swung his arms, his eyes filled with mockery. You do have some brute strength. Leopard Tail, you actually dared collude with the demons? One of Oxhead's horns had already been broken. He looked dispirited and listless. His soul had clearly been severely damaged. Not far away from him, Horseface had already lost consciousness and fallen to the ground. Looking at his brother who had been with him for tens of thousands of years, Oxhead's eyes became even redder. An hour later, all of this happened in the short span of an hour. They received Yi Zichen's message, consulted the Fengdu Emperor of the North, and sent reinforcements. However, an hour ago, the Leopard Tail, Bird Beak, Fishgill, and Wasp Ghost Commanders suddenly attacked them. In order to save Oxhead, Horseface took the combined attack of the four of them. After that, he fainted from his heavy injuries and never woke up again. Moreover, the ghost soldiers led by the four of them also attacked Oxhead and the others without any warning. The scene became chaotic. Scram. At that moment, the black and white impermanents repelled the fish gills and wasps that were entangling them and went to Oxhead's side. When they saw Horseface lying on the ground, their pupils constricted. However, in the blink of an eye, they withdrew their thoughts and focused their gazes on Leopard Tail and the other three. Just like 10,000 years ago, the Ghost Commander who controlled the lives of humans and the Ghost Commander who controlled the lives of demons once again stood on opposing sides. What a familiar scene. Leopard Tail bared his sharp teeth as he rubbed his chin with his thumb and forefinger. He smiled savagely. Leopard Tail, the great sacred emperor equaling heavens, is benevolent and allowed you to remain in the underworld as ghost commanders. Yet, you colluded with the demons. How dare you face the great emperor? Xiaobai roared. Due to the enemy's sudden attack, they didn't have the upper hand. Of course we have to respect the great emperor. He saved us from your clutches and converted us into ghost commanders. It's fair to say that the great emperor's benevolence is akin to giving us a new lease on life. Of course we remember that, said Leopard Tail sincerely. Then he arched his brows. But the great emperor is no longer here. However, the great emperor is no longer here. The one in charge of the underworld is the Necropolis Great Emperor of the North. Don't think I don't know that the great emperor is on good terms with you, Xiaobai. He also looks down on us. There's no helping it. We need to protect ourselves. That's all in the past. Since the Fengdu Emperor of the North sits at the pinnacle of the underworld, he'll definitely be fair and impartial. He won't be partial to anyone. Besides, you've been a ghost commander in the underworld for 10,000 years. Why would the Fengdu Emperor do anything to you? Xiaobai rebuked. Is that so? Leopard Tail looked hesitant. Xiaobai also tried to persuade him. It's not too late to stop now. When the time comes, I'll definitely ask the Fengdu Emperor for mercy on your behalf. Considering the four of you have worked hard in the underworld for 10,000 years, I believe the great emperor will be lenient with you. Then we surrender? Leopard Tail acted as if he'd been persuaded, but his lips quickly curled into a smile. Then he laughed out loud. Ha, I was just kidding. Surrender? Do you think we're stupid? That Fengdu Emperor of the North doesn't like us to begin with. Now that we colluded with the demons, he'll have even more evidence against us. Be lenient. Bullsh *T. Let me tell you, you must die today. The great emperor has eyes and ears everywhere. Do you think he doesn't know what's going on here? It won't be long before he arrives. When that happens, there'll be no turning back. Him? He's like a clay bodhisattva crossing a river. He can't even protect himself. And you still want him to save you? Laughable. The underworld. For the 5 ghost emperors have come, and 3 of the Rahu 6 guys have come. It's been a while since the underworld has been this lively. Come, Lord. The Fengdu Emperor of the North sat on the highest seat in the underworld's main hall, overlooking the crowd below. The 10 Yama Kings stood on either side of the hall, their expressions tense. Everyone who'd appeared now had ill intentions. Xitigarbha was also in the hall. His mount Diding also growled uneasily. Rumor has it that the great sacred emperor equaling heavens ascended to godhood. How can we not know about such a major event? We're the 5 ghost emperors, after all. This doesn't make sense. The speaker was the ghost emperor of the East, Kai Yulei. He had a human body, the face of a horse, and the horns of a bull. He ruled over the gates of the abyss on Mount Taoji. That's right. This is too disappointing. The speaker was the ghost emperor of the South, Du Ziren. He ruled over Mount Luofu. The Fengdu Emperor of the North smiled faintly at the 2 ghost emperors who'd spoken. Big Brother likes peace and quiet. Moreover, ascending to godhood is only a necessary part of his life, so he hasn't publicly announced it. This is in line with Big Brother's personality. Besides, Big Brother's ascension to godhood won't have much of an impact on all of you, so why should we disturb you? If you've all come for this, then leave. Big Brother has already ascended, so there's no point in staying. Chapter 950. If you dare. The Ghost Emperor's words caused the atmosphere in the hall to become extremely tense. The 10 Yama Kings couldn't help but gulp. They definitely weren't here for the great sacred emperor equaling heaven's ascension. They were here for the supreme position of the underworld. Eastern Ghost Emperor, don't go too far, said Xitigarbha with narrowed eyes. Beside him, Diting also stared at the people in the hall. From these few sentences, anyone could tell that they were here for the position of the great emperor. It was very rare to see the Xitigarbha Bodhisattva lose his temper. After being in the underworld for so long, he had always been the kind of person who paid no attention to worldly affairs. He only sought to purify evil spirits. But now, the appearance of these people was clearly disrupting the harmony and balance of hell. He hated wrath now. Sensing the change in Xitigarbha Bodhisattva's tone, the East Ghost Emperor smiled faintly. He twisted his neck, walked to a nearby chair, and sat down. Rumor has it that the Buddhist realm does not participate in the conflicts of the 3 realms. Xitigarbha Bodhisattva, do you want to get involved? Before the great sacred emperor equaling heavens ascended, he left this position to the Necropolis Emperor of the North, so the position of the underworld belongs to the Necropolis Emperor of the North. If you don't like it, you could have come here before the great sacred emperor equaling heavens ascended. Now that the great sacred emperor equaling heavens has ascended, why are you causing trouble here? The Xitigarbha Bodhisattva's expression darkened, and his words became even sharper. But his words made everyone in the hall burst into laughter. The Eastern Ghost Emperor shook his head repeatedly. That's not true, he said. Xitigarbha Bodhisattva sure is forgetful. Did you forget what I said before about not knowing about the great sacred emperor equaling heaven's ascension? Is it because you don't know? Or are you unwilling to know? Ksitigarbha narrowed his eyes. You don't know about the great emperor's ascension, but now you're here? Does it make sense? Tit for tat. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva didn't budge an inch as he retorted. His eyes met the ghost emperor's. As their gazes met, fiery sparks burst forth from their eyes. The Eastern Ghost Emperor drummed his fingers on the armrest of his chair as well. His gaze fell upon the Necropolis Emperor of the North. Bane Fengdu, you have some tricks up your sleeve. You actually made Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva protect you like this. Unfortunately, even if Bodhisattva were here, he wouldn't be able to protect the seat you're sitting on now. Well, what do you think we should do? The Necropolis Emperor of the North didn't show any emotion. Even after the Eastern Ghost Emperor said this, he still maintained his smile, his expression calm. Right now, I'm sitting on this seat. Then, if you're not satisfied, how do you want to settle this? A faint spiritual pressure emanated from the Necropolis Emperor of the North's body and filled the entire hall. But these two calm words caused everyone in the hall to be speechless. Even the most troublesome Eastern Ghost Emperor was the same. Ghost Emperor of the East Kai Yule, Ghost Emperor of the South Du Zuren, especially the palace gods of the three heavenly palaces. You are all under my jurisdiction. I was the one who made you the palace lords of the heavenly palace protectors. Now you dare to rebel against me? When their gazes landed on the palace gods of the three heaven palaces, they subconsciously lowered their heads. Could it be that I've oppressed you too deeply, causing you to have thoughts of rebellion? How pitiful and laughable. No one spoke in the hall. Only the Fengdu Emperor of the North was left muttering to himself. As he spoke, he had already walked down from the chair and directly arrived at the palace gods of the three heavenly palaces. 3 days ago, I even went to your heavenly palace. At that time, I didn't see any signs of rebellion. Why did you suddenly want to follow Kai Yule and Du Zuren to rebel against me? Can you tell me? Silence. The Empyrean gods of the three heavenly palaces only pursed their lips and said nothing. The Bane Necropolis Grand Emperor nodded at them indifferently, then walked up to the Eastern Ghost Emperor. His throat bobbed up and down, even though the great sacred emperor equaling heaven had always been the supreme being of the underworld. However, the Fengdu Emperor of the North was also the second in command of the underworld. Even though the Ghost Emperors were on equal footing with him, they still couldn't compare to him in terms of aura. Kai Yule, what? You want to use your power to suppress me? The Eastern Ghost Emperor snorted. Using your power to suppress me? Are you sure you're talking about me? Right now, you're the ones forcing me to abdicate. You've colluded with Du Zuren and my three heavenly palaces' palace gods to make trouble for me. You dare say that I'm using my power to suppress you? The Fengdu Emperor snorted indifferently, then pointed at the pitch-black throne in the great hall. You came here for that seat, didn't you? If the great sacred emperor equaling heaven was still here, that seat would naturally belong to him. But now that he's gone, you and the 5 ghost emperors are both qualified to sit there. But Ksitigarbha said that the great emperor passed the seat to me before he left. The Fengdu Emperor of the North said calmly. The Necropolis Emperor of the North's tone was very calm. You once asked me if I felt at ease sitting in that seat. To tell you the truth, I'm actually uneasy. Sitting in that seat means that everything in the underworld will be on my shoulders. My every word and action will determine the underworld's future. Don't be fooled by the limitless glory of that seat, but the pressure is also suffocating. In comparison, I'm actually more willing to take care of my Raw Mountain, but even that tiny Raw Mountain produced a traitor. What a failure. You're already sitting in that seat. What's the point of saying such hypocritical things? The Eastern Ghost Emperor snorted coldly. In his opinion, the Fengdu Emperor's words were just for show. The scenery up there was limitless. Who wouldn't want to sit in that supreme seat? You think I'm lying to you? Then tell me, what do I have to do for you to believe me and give the seat to you? But there are 5 of you here, but there's only 1 seat. How are you going to split it? You don't need to worry about that, snorted the Eastern Ghost Emperor. We're not here to force you to take the seat. The underworld's supreme power must be omnipotent. Only then can it protect the underworld's peace. Let's not compete with others. Whoever's fist is bigger will sit in that seat. Fight! The Fengdu Emperor arched his brows. The Eastern Ghost Emperor nodded non-committally, but the Fengdu Emperor of the North shook his head. That's no good. The demons are rampaging. If we fight here, we'll only weaken our side strength. Then you don't want to give it to me? The Eastern Ghost Emperor's expression darkened. It seemed like he was about to attack. Chapter 9:51. Please, it's that simple. He'd given away the seat of the highest authority in the underworld just like that. And in such a simple way. The Ghost Emperor looked at the Necropolis Emperor of the North, trying to read his expression. However, he'd long since reached a level where he couldn't show his emotions on his face. It was too difficult to read anything from his face. The Necropolis of the North. In the distance, Xidigarba couldn't help but frown. This was the seat of the highest authority in the underworld. He had absolute authority over the underworld. In Xidigarba's opinion, only the Fengdu Emperor of the North was qualified to sit in this position within the underworld. To tell the truth, he didn't think much of the other 5 Ghost Emperors. Disregarding everything else, their temperaments alone made them unsuitable for the position. The 5 Ghost Emperors each managed their respective hells. They'd seen the most despicable faces in the world. Who knew if their hearts had warped after spending so much time in that kind of environment? When the Necropolis Emperor had left, he'd been very much in favor of leaving his position to the Necropolis of the North. But now the Necropolis was giving away, and in such a simple way at that. As long as Kaiyule dared walk over and sit down, he'd give it to him. I'll have to disappoint you, Xidigarba. I really don't have much interest in this position. The Necropolis turned around and smiled apologetically at Xidigarba. Then he gestured at Kaiyule. Please. 30 meters. The Eastern Ghost Emperor, Kaiyule, was only 30 meters away from the supreme position, and this 30 meters would determine his future position. He'd still be sitting in the seat of the Ghost Emperor, watching the ugliest side of the world. He'd still sit in the highest position, in charge of the underworld's life and death. But the Necropolis's conditions were too simple. As long as he dared walk over, he'd give up his position. If he'd been the one to sit in this position, he wouldn't have given it away so easily. Perhaps there was a trap. What? I've already given you the position. Why aren't you moving? Didn't you come here for this position? With that, the Fengdu of the Bane looked at Du Ziren and the palace gods of the other heavenly palaces. If Kaiyule doesn't make a move, then you can make a move. Whoever takes the throne will be the future Lord of Hell. If anyone dares to disobey me, they will be the first to get past me. Go up. The opportunity is right in front of you. You must learn to cherish it. Let me. The Ghost Emperor of the South, Du Ziren, gritted his teeth and strode forward. Seeing him move, Kaiyule couldn't help but beat his chest and stomp his feet, blaming himself for being too cautious and letting someone else take the initiative. Immediately after, he rushed towards that location as fast as he could. This was the supreme position of the underworld, and he couldn't give it to anyone else. When Du Ziren saw Kaiyule approaching, he also increased his speed to the maximum. However, in an instant, Du Ziren, who was at the very front, let out a miserable shriek the moment he stepped onto the stairs. White smoke began to rise from his body. When he saw this, Kaiyule forced himself to a stop. He stared blankly at Du Ziren, who knelt on the ground and howled in pain. Then, he turned to look at the Necropolis of the North with bloodshot eyes. Bane Fengdu, you cheated. No. The Fengdu of the Bane laughed calmly. Do you think that seat is so easy to sit on? Those 9 steps are the 9 great punishments of the underworld. In order to become the lord of a local prefecture, one had to undergo the 9 great punishments. I didn't lie to you. Before I sit on that throne, I will also undergo this baptism. This is the same logic as how the supreme beings of the heavenly court have to endure the burning of 99 heavenly flames. Bulsh *T. This emperor has been in the underworld for so long, but how come I've never heard of this? Kaiyule roared angrily. You've been in the underworld for so long. Could it be that there have been many changes in the supreme beings of the underworld? Wasn't it always the great sacred emperor equaling heaven? My words are still the same. If you want to sit in that position, then go and endure the pain of the 9 steps. There's no point in talking anymore. His gaze landed on Du Ziren, who had already fainted on the ground. Kaiule's heart skipped a beat as he watched. Soon after, he withdrew his gaze and snorted with an ice-cold expression. Trying to scare me? I almost believed the Fengdu of the Northern Yin. You must have left a restriction there when you came down. Otherwise, how could you have so easily said that you would give up your position? The Fengdu of the Northern Yin sure is sinister. Kaiule looked at the Fengdu of the Northern Yin with a dark expression and snorted. But it doesn't matter. Du Ziren has fallen, but this emperor is still here. As long as I take care of you, this emperor will still be the supreme lord of the underworld. Boom! Spiritual energy surged into the sky. A light blue spiritual body appeared behind Kaiule, the ghost emperor of the east, and a horse. The horse constantly rubbed its feet, its eyes flashing with a demonic, fiery red light. Gusts of spiritual energy swept through the hall. The Yama Kings of the 10 halls paled as they sensed the heart-palpitating spiritual pressure. Immortal Kings. Immortal Kings, at the very least. Are we still going to fight? That's fine. I'll take care of all of you as soon as possible. I still have other matters to attend to. The Fengdu of the north sighed helplessly, then drew a circle in front of him with a fish inside. The vast river surged out of the circle, and before long, it had reached everyone's shoulders. There was a large door above the river. Soon after, bubbles began to appear at the bottom of the surging river. Whoosh! A carp leapt into the air, leaping over the gate and transforming into a dragon. Carp leaping over the dragon gate. The dragon's roar was deafening. At the same time, the Fengdu of the north beckoned at them with his finger. All right, come meet me together. He couldn't even protect himself. Xie Baian's expression darkened as he faced off against Leopard Tail. He narrowed his eyes and roared, Leopard Tail, Xie Baian, do you really think you can scare me like this? Leopard Tail snorted playfully. Why don't I tell you why he can't even protect himself? I'll tell you the truth. Right now, the Ghost Emperor of the East and Ghost Emperor of the South, as well as the Fengdu of the North control Mount Rahu. The Heavenly Palace of Zhou Juyin, the Heavenly Palace of Taisha Yang, and the Heavenly Palace of Zhongling Qi Fei. The guardian gods of 3 heavenly palaces are forcing you to abdicate. Do you understand? The great emperors you trust won't be able to save you. Could it be that they? Don't think too much about it. Why would these experts collude with the demons? They're just working together. Leopard Tail narrowed his eyes and laughed softly. Xie Baian's heart sank. Even the Ghost Emperor was colluding with the demons? What on earth was going on? You'd best just give up, lest we ruin our friendship. It seems there's no other way. Chapter 952. Someone's behind us, boom. Without any hesitation, Xie Bian attacked Leopard Tail and the others like a ghost. He punched. The punch was tricky. Leopard Tail's pupils shrank. He instinctively took half a step to the left, twisted his body 90 degrees, and straightened his waist, dodging the punch. The moment he dodged, he threw a punch of his own. There was nowhere to hide. Oomph! Xie Bian didn't even think about dodging. His left hand clenched into a fist, and without hesitation, he met the attack head-on. Boom! Their fists collided, and a wave of spiritual energy rippled out from them. The surrounding trees were all snapped by the spirit wave, and gravel filled the sky. Bang, bang, bang. After their fists collided, Xie Bian took 7 steps back before he stopped. But Leopard Tail didn't move. His eyes were full of mockery. Seeing this, Xie Bian's eyelids twitched. Could it be that he was stronger than him now? Black Impermanence, who had turned into a ghost with Xie Bian, clutched his chest and fell to Xie Bian's side. He looked at Leopard Tail. Fish Gills had his fist extended, and his lips curled into an arrogant smile. Old fan. Xie Bian frowned. Black Impermanence waved at him. Troublesome. Of course it was troublesome. Leopard Tail and the others might be stronger than them now. Before, they could still rely on Xie Bian to intimidate them. But now their last bit of leverage had turned into bubbles. But just half a year ago, Xie Bian could fight against 4 people alone. In the past half a year, what had happened to them to increase their strength so much? Xie Bian, Fan Wujio, do you think you're the strongest of the ghost marshals? What a joke. I'll say it again. Hurry up and surrender. Who knows, I might even spare your lives if I'm in a good mood. Leopard Tail laughed arrogantly. Xie Bian furrowed his brows. Before, the ghosts of the underworld disappeared. You guys did it, right? Yes. There was nothing to hide now. Their strength had increased by leaps and bounds. Almost everyone in the underworld would think that they were responsible for the disappearance of the evil spirits. Devouring the souls of evil spirits is against the will of the heavens. Aren't you afraid of the wrath of the heavens? Xie Bian shouted angrily, his face dark. Leopard Tail smiled. Heaven's wrath? Heh, are you talking to me about the wrath of heaven? Let me tell you the truth. Don't revere the heavens too much. Maybe when you really touch the truth, the heavens you revere will let you down. Or if I tell you, in fact, it is the heaven that made us cooperate with the devil race, would you believe it? Do you think I believe that? Xie Bian grunted. That's true. Leopard Tail smiled faintly. Soon after, his expression turned cold as he said, surrender. Even though you've been suppressing us brothers for so many years, we won't let you die on account of our old friendship. To be honest, don't resist. You can't turn the tables. Why did those ghost emperors make a move? Why did the palace gods of the heaven palaces make a move? Don't you think about it? Purely cooperate with the devil race? Do you think that's possible? What are you trying to say? It's not just the underworld. The situation in the heavenly court and the immortal region isn't much better. Do you think the demons alone can shake the three realms at the same time? What methods do they have to make the three realms submit to them? Think about it. But our mission is to get rid of you. Don't make things difficult for us. Surrender. When Xie Bian heard this, he was shocked. But at that moment, Oxhead, who had a broken horn, walked out. He patted Xie Bian's shoulder, startling him out of his daze. Then he glared at him and snorted. We all know what you're saying, and we don't want to look into it. But do you think you've already won? That's not the case. Old Ox, you really need to change that stubborn temper of yours. Leopard Tail grunted angrily. I can't change it. How can I just change the temperament I've developed over tens of thousands of years? Oxhead snorted. I'll say the same thing to you. Surrender. On account of our past friendship, we'll spare your life. Spare my life? Leopard Tail's face was filled with indescribable mockery. He even deliberately bent over and put his hand to his ear. He raised his eyebrows and said, What did you just say? I didn't hear it clearly. Can you repeat it for me? The outcome had been decided. Whether it was the ghost soldiers under them or the four ghost marshals, they had the absolute advantage in this confrontation. Spare his life? That was the funniest joke he'd ever heard in his life. I'd like to see how you're going to spare my life. With that, Leopard Tail's expression darkened. In an instant, countless evil spirits appeared around his body and coiled around him, wailing in pain. Then I'll show you. Faced with Leopard Tail's towering anger, Oxhead only smiled calmly. His hands kept forming seals. The void shattered, and 36 coffins, each 100 feet long, emerged from the shattered void. When Leopard Tail saw this, he was stunned as well. Fear flashed in his eyes. Oxhead, you actually... Xie Bian also looked at the 36 coffins in the void in shock. For some reason, he thought back to the beginning of the underworld. Back then, there was the undisputed number 1 ghost marshal. Oxhead. He was able to become the number 1 ghost marshal not because of his extraordinary strength, but because of the 36 ghost kings that followed him. However, hadn't the ghost kings all fallen 10,000 years ago? Old brothers, I'll have to trouble you again. He bowed deeply towards the coffins, then waved his right hand, lifting the lid off all 36 coffins. The ghost kings had reappeared. You're saying that someone from the god realm is supporting you from behind the scenes? Black Dragon knit his brows and looked into Gu Li's eyes. Just now, Gu Li had told him everything without hiding anything. That's right, if it weren't for the help from the higher-ups, we wouldn't have been able to do anything. Did you really think that a nobody like me could convince all the major powers of the 3 realms to work for me? No matter how you look at it, it doesn't make sense. Gu Li sighed indifferently. I wanted to use my own methods to make them listen to me, but that's just wishful thinking. I might be doing well in the outside world, but in reality, I'm just an errand boy. I can't compare to you, Lord Black Dragon. He actually had someone from above helping him. Black Dragon couldn't help but frown. If someone from above was standing behind him, then everything would make sense. However, he wouldn't be able to avenge himself. Attacking Gu Li was tantamount to challenging someone from the God Realm. Although he was now a supreme himself, who knew what level of power Gu Li's backer was at. Your Excellency Black Dragon, I know you hate me. Anyone would hate me for letting someone else take over your place. But what if I told you that this was all because of that person's orders? What'd you think? What? Chapter 9:53. The ambush. Point Black Dragon's expression was grave. Gu Li's information was far too shocking. The God race had instructed him to occupy the demon race's territory. What did this God race person want? Could it be that he also wanted to deal with the devil race? Sensing Black Dragon's tension, Gu Li tried to comfort him. Your Excellency Black Dragon, please don't worry. That great god had me take over your territory only to feed the blood zombies. I had no choice but to do so. Once everything's over, the demon's territory will be returned to you, and the three realms will be yours to dwell in. All to me? Now that he knew Gu Li had a major figure backing him, Black Dragon no longer referred to himself as I return the demon's territory to me, and the three realms will be yours to dwell in as well. Then what do you want? Tell me, what does the Great One behind you want? No matter how he looked at it, this wasn't a good deal. But since that Great One was a god, it was only natural that he didn't care for the lower realms territory. Still, he'd spared no effort. He was definitely after something even more important. His Excellency said the three realms would be a gift in return for borrowing your territory. His Excellency wants the same thing as me, Yi Zichen's life. When Gu Li said this, Black Dragon froze briefly, then arched his brows. He actually offended someone in the God Realm? It's not like you don't understand Yi Zichen's temperament. He might have offended a senior of the God race, or perhaps he's affected his interests, but there's one more important thing, his past. The Yellow Emperor. That's right. Gu Li nodded slightly. Back then, the Yellow Emperor openly provoked the gods. You should know about this, right? Many people have been thinking about it. He brought this on himself. Back then, the Yellow Emperor of the Immortal Region had fought against the gods, causing quite the commotion. During that time, the Underworld and Heavenly Court had cut off all contact with the Immortal Region. The higher-ups of the Immortal Region had isolated him, and in the end, he'd been reincarnated. However, 10,000 years had passed. He hadn't expected the gods to still remember. He brought this on himself, snorted Gu Li sinisterly. Gu Li snorted sinisterly. Back in the day, the Yellow Emperor thought too highly of himself. He thought provoking the god race was a heroic act. After reincarnating, he was still the same, but he did not expect that the Protoss had already noticed him. If he wants to become a god, it's practically impossible in this life, the next life, countless reincarnations. Black Dragon nodded in agreement. Gu Li spoke up once more. I'm telling everything to Lord Black Dragon so that we can treat each other with sincerity. I don't want there to be any gaps in our cooperation. As long as I take care of this place, I will go to the upper realm, and this place will be your eternal dynasty, Lord Black Dragon. Brother Gu Li, since you're so honest, I have nothing else to say. I can only say this. Yi Zichen must die. All right. In a valley in the Beast region, the demons had to pass through if they wanted to invade the Beast region. The Shadow Rat clan, which was adept at concealment, became the best choice for investigation. Under these circumstances, using spiritual awareness to probe was very likely to alert the enemy, causing the Black Dragon and the others to become vigilant. How is it? Where are the demons now? 3,000 meters left, said the Rat Scout. In response, Yi Zichen nodded. He was surrounded by soldiers of various races. In order to prevent the demons from passing through the valley on foot, Zhuge Hong had used her natal blood essence to set up a fiery killing formation. If the demons didn't want to pass through, that was fine. They just have to endure the flames. The gunpowders what MO had concocted had arrived as well. Practically every soldier in ambush had nearly 100 bombs. If they tossed them all out, their destructive power would be no less than a nuclear warhead. Flames raged above, and bombs bombarded below. Even if the demons and blood zombies didn't all die, they'd at least lose a layer of skin. Stop! Black Dragon gestured as he walked. Ghoulie walked over and narrowed his eyes at the valley ahead. This place is perfect for ambushes. At this moment, they were standing at the entrance of the canyon, surrounded by endless mountains. If they took a detour, they'd waste too much time. Every second counted. They couldn't afford to take such a long detour. It is indeed suitable for ambushes, but only for ordinary people. Black Dragon was implying that they didn't need to walk through the valley. All they had to do was fly through the air. I'm just afraid there's an ambush up there as well. He gestured, then had Black Dragon call out to one of the demon soldiers. Your Excellency, fly over from above. Black Dragon pointed at the sky above the valley. The demon soldier didn't hesitate. He leapt into the air and flew over. The image of a flaming phoenix suddenly appeared in the sky, accompanied by a resonant phoenix cry. The sky blazed with raging flames. The soldier Black Dragon had sent out to scout was instantly reduced to ashes. After the warrior was burned to ashes, the flames disappeared and returned to silence. That's the Fire Phoenix clan's natal true flame, said Ghoulie. Ghoulie glanced at them, then said, It seems they're determined to force us to traverse the gorge. I refuse to believe it. You, go try it. He stretched out his hand and called out to another demon fighter. After witnessing the scene of that man being burned into ashes, this demon fighter kept licking his lips with a very nervous look. Go! Black Dragon's desperate roar rang out once more. The demon soldier gnashed his teeth, braced himself, and flew as high as he could. They were so high they couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Everyone used their spiritual awareness to probe. Clang, clang. I really don't know what to do with a phoenix's onomatopoeia. Clang, clang, taken from the Zhuan. Phoenixes fly together, harmonizing clang, clang. There was another resonant phoenix cry. Black Dragon couldn't help but close his eyes. He still couldn't break through. Could it be that the phoenix set up a spiritual formation to break through the sky? Everyone who walked through the valley knew there was an ambush, but the raging flames above gave them a headache. Let's just go through the valley. We all know how powerful the phoenix's natal true flame is. If we try to break through there, we might lose our lives. Black Dragon hesitated. Even though they knew there was an ambush, they still had to brace themselves and continue forward. No matter what the enemy's ambush is, it's definitely better than breaking through the phoenix's natal true flame. Besides, if they set up an ambush in the valley, they'll at most set up a few formations or throw some rocks. That's nothing to us, said Ghoulie. Then he added, We can't waste time here. We can't delay here. Our time is limited. Chapter 954. Eat a bomb, they entered the valley. Although it was called a valley, it was only the entrance that was relatively narrow. Once inside, there was a wide path in the middle of the valley. It was a full 10 meters wide. For Ghoulie and the demons, this was a silver lining in their misfortune. They'd been afraid that the entrance would remain as narrow as it had been. If they ran into an ambush, they wouldn't be able to use their full strength. Now it was 10 meters wide. Although it was still too small for them, it was more than enough for them to dodge. We haven't seen any spiritual formations along the way. They'd traveled 1,000 meters into the valley, but nothing out of the ordinary had happened. There were no rocks on either side of the valley, nor were there any spiritual formations in the middle. Could it be that they're trying to play mind games with us? Are they trying to trick us into thinking that there's an ambush even more dangerous than the true flames above? Are they trying to force our way through? Black Dragon arched his brows. Their journey had been far too peaceful. He couldn't help but think that. Absolutely not, said Ghoulie. Ghoulie disagreed. If it really were as you think, Your Excellency Black Dragon, there's no way they would have used the Flamephoenix's natal true flame to stop us. The true flames of the Fire Phoenixes are the fiercest flames in the world. Even Sky Immortals wouldn't be able to withstand it. If they wanted to play mind games, they would have set up a killing formation that would hurt us, but not so much that we couldn't endure it. That's true. Black Dragon nodded. If they really wanted to play mind games, the true flames of the Fire Phoenixes were far too threatening. Even an idiot wouldn't try to force their way through. Then do you think they're using that formation to buy us time? That's possible. Nodded Ghoulie. They might have grasped our intentions. They think we don't want to go through the valley, nor do we want to force our way through. That's why they're trying to find the end of the formation. It's just that. It's just that what? The price is a bit too high. Ghoulie hesitated for a moment, then frowned. If the fire phoenixes want to set up a killing formation with their true flames, they'll have to use their blood essence. Judging from the range of the formation, it'll cost them almost half their blood essence. Also, aside from the clan head of the fire phoenixes, I can't think of anyone else with such power. If they're just trying to buy us time, it'll cost them half their blood essence. It's not worth it. No matter how he thought about it, it did not make sense. However, the ambush in the canyon did not come out. Don't think too much. We just need to move forward and deal with whatever comes our way. Sha sha sha. The black-furred Shadow Rat clan member returned with news. When Yi Zichen saw him, he said, "You're right. He's here? He's here." The little mouse spat out the truth. We're already a kilometer into the canyon. It won't be long before we reach our ambush range. Humph, it seems that I have suffered a loss because of Aunt Zhuge. I have no choice but to go down. Yi Zichen smiled playfully. Actually, Zhuge Hong had two reasons for setting up the formation. First, the demon race was afraid of the bottom of the valley, afraid of the true life fire, constantly probing the end of the spiritual formation to buy time. 2. Force the demons to go from the valley to the hinterland. As for forcibly breaking through the Phoenix's true life flame, they were certain that Black Dragon would never do such a thing. If they really left like this, it could only be said that they were lucky. Actually, Zhuge Hong had only left behind a few drops of her lifeblood when she had set up the spiritual formation. If Black Dragon wanted to forcibly break through the formation, it would take him no more than the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. However, Yi Zichen and the others were betting that Black Dragon wouldn't do such a thing. Their luck was pretty good. Their gamble paid off. Emperor Yi, they're coming in. At that moment, the Vermilion Bird clan member, lying in ambush, spoke up. Yi Zichen looked in the direction of the clansman's hand and saw Black Dragon leading the way. He looked around vigilantly. Stay hidden. Yi Zichen transmitted to the ambushers, then lay down. Buzz. A wave of probing energy swept over them. When he sensed it, Yi Zichen almost laughed out loud. If Black Dragon thought he could use his spiritual awareness to locate Yi Zichen and the others, he could only say that he was overthinking things. Before they came here, Yinshang had used the 8 formation chart of Qian Yuan to set up a formation to erase their auras. If he couldn't even think of that, how could he possibly play ambush? Emperor Yi, wait a little longer. Once they've all come in, we'll blow up all their paths of retreat. Let them enjoy our love for them. Understood. The ambushers grinned in understanding. At the same time, they took out their bombs and waited for Yi Zichen's command. Still no one. Even the cautious Ghoulie didn't think there was any ambush. By now, they could already see the valley's exit. Your Excellency, there's someone at the top of the valley. At this moment, someone from the devil race suddenly shouted and looked up. The Black Dragon also noticed that figure. Run. Fighting here was unwise. The valley's exit was right in front of them. All they had to do was get out. We found him. How is that possible? Yi Zichen knit his brows. At that moment, he saw the White Tiger running. Who told you to move? The White Tiger clan member who was running came to a stop. He clutched his pants with a pained expression on his face. Yi. Emperor Yi, I need to pee. Damn it. Yi Zichen rolled his eyes in exasperation. His perfect ambush had been ruined by a splash of urine. Since he'd been discovered, Yi Zichen simply rose to his feet and roared at Ghoulie and Black Dragon. Your Excellency, Black Dragon, Brother Ghoulie, I've been waiting here for a long time. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. I still have gifts for you. With that, Yi Zichen's eyes narrowed and he roared. Explode. Rumble. Black Dragon was in the middle of a mad dash when he suddenly saw the exit in front of him collapse. Boulders fell from both sides of the valley and blocked the exit. Suddenly, there was another explosion. Black Dragon reached out with his spiritual awareness. Their paths of retreat were blocked. Black metal balls were tossed down from above the valley in an endless stream. The demon's formation was instantly thrown into disarray. For a moment, they thought it was some sort of extraordinary hidden weapon. Black Dragon was the same, but before long, he noticed that there was nothing special about the metal balls. Emperor Yi, and here I thought you'd give me a pleasant surprise. Do you really think these metal balls can deal with hundreds of thousands of our demon army? With that, he tossed the metal balls viciously at Yi Zichen. The pleasant surprise is yet to come. As soon as he said that, the Fire Phoenix race clansmen on both sides of the canyon started spewing flames into the canyon. The White Tiger race clansmen also started sending lightning bolts into the canyon. Still, it didn't hurt. Really, Emperor Yi, you disappoint me too much. The Black Dragon sneered. Even the most ordinary warrior of the devil race could withstand this kind of attack. However, at that moment, the fuse on the scattered metal balls lit up. Gu Li's pupils constricted. He'd always found the metal balls particularly familiar. Chapter 955. Thinner than paper Black Dragon looked at the fuse on the metal balls. Wasn't this the kind of bomb that only appeared in the modern realm during wartime? Who knew how Yi Zichen had managed to develop such a bomb? All Gu Li could think of now was how to ensure his own safety in such a narrow space. Without experiencing it firsthand, he would never know how powerful it was. Gu Li didn't think too much about it. He focused all his spiritual energy on defense. Bomb? This was a completely new term for Black Dragon. He sensed no threat from the metal balls at all. They were made of ordinary materials and didn't look particularly good. However, when he saw Gu Li's terrified expression, Black Dragon's heart was filled with questions. What the hell was a bomb? However, with a massive explosion, he lost the ability to think. Everyone, focus your spiritual energy on defense. The instant the explosions occurred, Black Dragon roared at his surroundings. The demons weren't idiots. When they sensed the first wave of explosions, they'd already focused all their spiritual energy on defense. However, it was already too late to think about defense. Bombs exploded one after another. The White Tigers and Phoenix clansmen, standing in ambush on either side of the canyon, continued to throw explosive bombs down below. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions filled Black Dragon's ears. This was the first time the metal balls had appeared before him. At first, he thought they posed no threat at all. Now, they'd left an indelible mark on his heart. Blow them up. Yi Zichen stood at the top of the gorge and continuously roared. The group of White Tiger and Fire Phoenix clansmen also threw the bombs into the canyon with all their might. Boom! Amidst the roar of the bombs, the 10-meter-wide canyon was so narrow for the demons. They focused all their strength on defense, but under the intense bombardment, the barriers they'd erected shattered one after another. Blood and flesh flew through the air amid the flames. Mournful screams reverberated through the valley as countless devil race clansmen died in the explosions. Black Dragon's eyes bulged out of their sockets. He watched his clansmen die one after another. His eyes were so red, they looked like they were about to bleed. The explosion of these bombs was negligible to him, but those human immortal stage clansmen, those early heaven immortal stage clansmen, they would all be buried here. Yi Zichen. Smoke filled the air and flames filled the sky. Black Dragon clenched his teeth and looked through the smoke above the valley at Yi Zichen, who was above the valley. Black Dragon, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and save them. At this moment, a forceful shout suddenly rang out in the sky. The familiar voice caused Black Dragon to turn around and see Li Min, pushing Su Yiyun into the valley. He was currently setting up a spirit formation as fast as he could. Brother Su, why are you here? After a brief hesitation, the Black Dragon could not help but ask, You're still talking about me? If I hadn't come, the devil race would have been destroyed by your hands. Su Yiyun's brows were tightly knitted together. Wave after wave of spirit energy shot out from his hands, detonating all the bombs thrown from above the canyon in midair. What are you waiting for? I can't hold on much longer. These are your clansmen. Are you going to watch them die? Su Yiyun roared. After a long while, Black Dragon finally came to his senses. He slapped the ground and erected a thick defensive barrier above the canyon. The bombs that fell from the sky all exploded on the barrier, but the barrier still stood firm in the void. Phew! Su-Yun finally let out a long sigh and wiped the sweat off his face with a trembling handkerchief. All right, stop. When he saw that the bombs had no effect, Yi Zichen gestured for the white tigers and fire phoenixes to stop. If Black Dragon insisted on protecting his clansmen, then no matter how many bombs they had, they wouldn't be able to break through his defenses. He looked into the distance. Su-Yun had appeared to stop the demon's losses, and Black Dragon had erected a defensive barrier to stop the bomb's damage. Even so, that short explosion still caused the Devil Clan's troops to decrease sharply. More than 40% of them had died in the explosion. Most of them were human immortals, with only a few early-stage sky immortals. As for the remaining 60%, most of them had suffered light injuries, but many of them were heavily injured. Only those at or above the mid-stage sky immortal level had survived. However, there were far too few experts at that level. It was fair to say that this ambush had caused the demons to lose at least 70% of their forces. This ambush could be considered a success, right? However, if Su-Yun hadn't come, the results might have been even better. OL3. Yi Zichen stood in the canyon and gazed down at Su-Yun, who sat on a chair, wiping away his sweat. It seemed he didn't have much time left. But Yi Zichen really couldn't understand why his former best friend would now stand against the demons and spare no effort to help them fight back. Friendship was thinner than paper. Was that really the case? Yi Zichen inexplicably thought back to his college days, when they'd worn baggy underwear, drank beer, and talked big in their dorm rooms. There was no turning back. On the day they'd all left, they'd all ended. Let's go. Yi Zichen let out a long sigh, then turned around. The white tigers and fire phoenixes were having a blast. This was the first time they'd ever seen a secret treasure like explosives. This was new to them, especially when they saw the scope and power of the explosions. They watched the demons flee in panic and wail in pain. How satisfying. They hadn't even thrown their bombs yet, but they heard that Yi Zichen had stopped. They'd thought he'd wait until Black Dragon's barrier was gone, but to their surprise, they'd be retreating. Emperor Yi, are we leaving just like that? Even if they are Immortal King-level experts, they won't be able to sustain such a large-scale protective barrier for long. The white tigers tried to comfort him, but Yi Zichen smiled calmly at them. These bombs are only effective when they least expect it. Now that they've seen its power, they'll definitely be on high alert. Besides, we've already blown up most of the human immortal-level demons below. Throwing more won't have much of an effect. Furthermore, if we delay any longer, we might be in danger. Understood. As soon as Yi Zichen finished speaking, the white tiger nodded. Then he turned to his clansmen lying in ambush and shouted, "Retreat! Retreat!" Chapter 956. Why not let you have it thanks to Black Dragon's protection? The demons finally had a chance to catch their breaths. The stronger ones started treating the injured, while quite a few people hugged the lifeless corpses of dead demons and sobbed uncontrollably. War was cruel, and demons' hearts were made of flesh. Those who'd lost their friends wailed heartbreakingly. As for those who'd survived, they rejoiced inwardly, but at the same time, they worried about whether they'd suffer the same fate. In any case, the valley was filled with mourning. Brother Su, didn't I tell you to stay in Maple City to rest? Why did you come here? Black Dragon frowned at Su-Yun, his voice filled with concern. Although he held a grudge against Su-Yun, considering how much Su-Yun had sacrificed to the demons, he wasn't willing to shed all pretense of cordiality with him. Besides, perhaps things weren't as he'd imagined. He'd told Su-Yun to stay in Maple City partly because he was afraid he'd become involved with Yi Zichen, but also partly because he really wanted him to rest. Divinity decay. Su-Yun didn't have much time left. Black Dragon didn't want him to die in the chaos of the battlefield. He didn't even want his corpse to be taken care of. If you're still talking, if I hadn't come, the demons would all be finished. Su-Yun knit his brows and snorted. Just a few days ago, I read the heavens and sensed the calamity was about to befall us demons. After you left, I couldn't help but peer into the heavenly Tao and divine that this would be the case. I told men to hurry and bring me here. I wish you luck in escaping. This. I made you worry, Brother Sue. Black Dragon sighed softly. Then his gaze fell on the demons in the valley. He felt an inexplicable pain in his heart, and the cause of this pain was that damned Yizichin. If he hadn't released that metal ball called a bomb, the demons wouldn't have. I never would have guessed Yizichin was capable of something like this. He used explosives from the Modern Realms war here. Coincidentally, Su Iyun frowned as well. When he mentioned this, Black Dragon's expression darkened. All of a sudden, he remembered that Su Iyun had descended from the sky. Brother Su, did you come from above? Yes. Su Iyun nodded. When he saw Black Dragon's astonishment, he knew what he was thinking. So he said, in truth, Yi Zichen and the others tricked you. The Fire Phoenix, true fire blocking the canyon, was nothing more than a few drops of blood essence. If you want to forcefully break it, you can break it in the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. Bang! His fist slammed into the cliff face of the canyon. Black Dragon's body trembled uncontrollably, the muscles on his face twitching slightly as well. Yi Zichen, along with a roar, Black Dragon's spiritual energy spread out in the surroundings. Bang! However, before he could leave the ground, Su Iyun shouted at him to stop. Stop right there. Brother Su, you want to stop me? This was truly a humiliation for the Black Dragon. It was just a few drops of true life blood, yet it was enough to scare away the Lord of the Devil race and cause him to fall into a trap. How could Black Dragon tolerate such a trick? Do you want to vent your anger on Yi Zichen? He left a long time ago. As soon as Su Iyun finished speaking, Black Dragon noticed that there were no longer any Beast Region soldiers lying in ambush on either side of the canyon. Creak! Black Dragon clenched his fists so hard they creaked. The aura around him grew sinister. This was especially true of his sinister eyes. When he met them, he felt as if he'd fallen into a bottomless abyss. He bore a grudge. He bore a complete and utter grudge. There's no need to take it to heart, said Su Iyun. You were just slightly behind this time. In a battle of wills and schemes, we demons can't always have the upper hand. Just remember this loss. The process isn't important. What we want is the result. When Su Iyun saw Black Dragon's hatred clouding his mind, he spoke up to enlighten him. I know that. Black Dragon nodded slightly, but his gaze was still incomparably sinister. Yi Zichen's life is mine. Su Iyun didn't say anything in response. By now, his gaze had already fallen on the injured demon. He gestured for Li Min Yi to help treat his wounds. Brother Su, you're here. I missed you so much when I didn't see you earlier. At that moment, Gu Li, who disappeared without a trace when the bombs were thrown, appeared out of nowhere. He walked up to Su Iyun with a faint smile on his face. And here I thought we'd meet for the last time. I never would have guessed we'd run into each other here. Are you that eager for me to die? Su Iyun arched his brows. It was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. Brother Su, what are you saying? Laughed Gu Li. Ignoring Gu Li, Su Iyun closed his eyes and rested once more. By now, he could already sense his life force slipping away in order to live longer. Or rather, in order to live until the day he wanted to live, he had to constantly refine his soul and prevent it from collapsing. Gu Li smiled at Su Iyun, who had his eyes closed. Then, he felt a cold aura beside him. Brother Gu Li, you sure run fast. Sensing Black Dragon's suppressed fury, Gu Li hurriedly put on a helpless expression. Your Excellency Black Dragon, please don't be angry. I never would have guessed that Brat Yi Zichen could get his hands on a bomb. I'm weak, so I had no choice but to protect myself. Oomph. Black Dragon snorted darkly. If it weren't for the fact that he feared Gu Li's backer, he really would have killed him right there and then. Yi Zichen was surely aware of the bomb's power, yet he hadn't warned him in the slightest, resulting in disastrous losses for the demons. Yi Zichen was detestable, but Gu Li wasn't any better. I know you're furious, Your Excellency Black Dragon, but fortunately, Brother Su arrived just in time. The demons didn't suffer particularly heavy losses. Our cooperation can't end just like that. How about we drop it now? Gu Li hereby swears that in the future, I will not abandon you and your demon race. No matter how unwilling Black Dragon was, he had no choice but to drop the matter. Besides, it was just as Ghoulie had said. The demon's losses weren't unbearable. Only a few human immortal-level soldiers had died. The true elites were still capable of fighting. Ghoulie snorted bitterly and left. At that moment, however, Ghoulie stealthily approached Su Iyun. "What do you think you're doing?" Su Iyun, who'd been keeping his eyes closed the entire time, suddenly opened his eyes and spoke in an unfriendly tone. "Brother Su, you've come after all. It seems you've made all the necessary preparations." Ghoulie intentionally lowered his voice and chuckled. Meanwhile, Su Iyun's gaze landed on Ghoulie. His pitch-black eyes, which were disproportionate to his appearance, stared straight at Ghoulie, as if trying to see right through him. "I don't know what you're talking about. Is that so? I'm afraid that poor Black Dragon will suffer greatly at your hands, Brother Su." A playful smile surfaced on Ghoulie's face. Su Iyun smiled back, his gaze darkening. Chapter 9:57. Accompanying Yu Li's playful smile instantly froze. His expression faded, and he stared intently into Su Iyun's eyes. Su Iyun leaned back in his chair, tilted his head, and smirked. The two of them said nothing. They just stared at each other calmly. After a long, drawn-out stare, Li's smile returned to normal. "Brother Su, you really know how to joke. You should save this gift for Black Dragon. I'd rather not accept it. Besides, you've planned this for so long. It'd be a bit of a waste to leave it on me." "Humph." Su Iyun snorted, but his gaze did not change at all. He still had that terrifying gaze as he stared at Ghoulie and said, "You're right, Ghoulie. What's there to feel pity about? It's already come to this. I can't be bothered to keep up the pretense. You've always been at odds with Zichen. You and Black Dragon are actually a multiple-choice question. Choosing either one would be a perfect answer." Ghoulie's expression instantly darkened. "Brother Su, are you serious? What do you think?" Su Iyun's expression was still terrifyingly calm. After staring at each other for a while, Ghoulie shrank back. Although he didn't say anything, the way he avoided Ghoulie's gaze showed that he was truly afraid. "It's good that you're afraid, so don't provoke me anymore. Got it? Sometimes being smart isn't a good thing. Two smart people have short lives. Do you understand? I know you have someone protecting you, but the barefoot isn't afraid of the barefoot. I'm already at the end of my rope, even if I get rid of you. So what if your backer comes out and kills me? I'm all alone. If you don't believe me, you're welcome to try me. Iyun, how are you feeling? Are you feeling unwell?" At that moment, Li Mini walked over from behind. Su Iyun shot Ghoulie a warning glance, then looked away. He smiled warmly at her and shook his head. "Everything's fine. That's good." Li Min let out a sigh of relief. For the past few days, she'd been asking about him every hour, and she'd personally used her spiritual energy to check his condition. Then she retracted her gaze and snorted at Ghoulie. "I saw the two of you talking about something just now. You didn't seem to be in a good mood. Did he do something to you?" Whenever she saw Ghoulie, Li Mini couldn't help but recall Hua Kuei's tragic death. Her hatred only grew. If Black Dragon hadn't warned her not to clash with Ghoulie, she would have attacked him long ago. "How about it, Brother Su? How would I dare?" Ghoulie smiled wryly. "Brother Su, I'm already pretty good. Don't you think so, Brother Su?" "Minnie, don't overthink things. Ghoulie wouldn't dare do anything to me." Li Mini patted the arm on the chair and comforted her softly, then glared hatefully at Ghoulie without saying anything else. "How is it? Do we suffer heavy casualties?" Su Iyun changed the topic. Li Min answered every question. "It's very serious. We've lost at least 60% of our people. Fortunately, the ones left behind are the elites of the elites, so they still have the strength to fight." Brother Su, Black Dragon also walked over at this moment. "You've taken care of everything?" asked Su Iyun. I've already sent people to open up the entrance to the valley and let the wounded return to recover. As for the ones left behind, I'm preparing to lead them into the Beast region. Time is of the essence, so I need to march right away. Brother Su, you're unwell. How about I let Minnie take you back to rest?" Black Dragon frowned deeply. They'd already come this far. He couldn't possibly back down now. The demon's forces had already suffered a steep decline. If they gave the beast region time to prepare, they'd grow stronger and weaker. That wouldn't be a good thing for him. The immortal region, underworld, and heavenly court were all in chaos. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to take over the beast region, then make adjustments and decide which holy land to attack. Furthermore, he still had to avenge this grudge. He no longer wanted Yi Zichen to live even a second longer than necessary. Forget it. You can send the wounded back, but since I'm already here, I might as well go with you. The beast region has many experts. If I stay, I can help you. There's no need for you to send anyone to take care of me. Life and death are up to fate. If I really die here, that might just be my fate. Su Yun's voice was weak. Black Dragon hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right, then I'll have to trouble you, Brother Su. No problem. Su Yun waved at Black Dragon, but his expression suddenly froze. He looked at Gu Li and said, "Remember what I just said. I've been watching you from behind." Gu Li's smile instantly froze. Black Dragon looked at the two of them in bewilderment. It's nothing. Let's march. Su Yun waved his hand calmly, but his gaze remained fixed on Gu Li. His gaze never left him for a moment. When he sensed Black Dragon's gaze, Gu Li smiled stiffly. Your Excellency Black Dragon, let's march. Yi Zichen's expression had been grave ever since he'd returned to the Dragon Clan after the ambush. After a brief conversation with the 4 Sacred Beast clan heads, he said he'd leave. When the clan heads noticed his mood, they didn't try to keep him. Yi Zichen sat desolately in the courtyard, smoking a cigarette. Images replayed in his mind over and over again. Some were from a modern realm, and some were from the 3 realms. As the images overlapped, Yi Zichen couldn't help but arch his brows and sigh. He had no idea that his cigarette was already half-burnt before he'd even taken a puff. Zichen. Yi Zichen heard a murmur. He looked up and saw Su Yin standing in front of him, dressed in a white dress. Her pretty face was etched with worry. Earlier, she'd noticed Yi Zichen's expression. She was truly worried, so she'd spoken to Su Lu and the 4 Sacred Beast clan heads about it. There was no point in staying. The clan heads all nodded. Su Lu on the other hand, had hesitated, but Su Zhu had convinced her. She'd left the hall to find Yi Zichen. Why are you here? That's right, said Su Lu pouting. She looked adorable. What? Are you looking down on me? Su Yin pouted angrily. She looked adorable. How could that be? Yi Zichen chuckled. Why didn't you go play with Kiki? Why did you come to my rundown house? I haven't seen Kiki in a long time. Su Yin pursed her lips, then sighed. Zichen, do you know how long it's been since we sat down and had a heart-to-heart chat? Instantly, Su Yan's tone became desolate. Sensing the change in her mood, Yi Zichen could only smile apologetically. I'm sorry. It's nothing. I understand, said Su Yan with a gentle smile. She knew how tired Yi Zichen was right now. She didn't want him to worry because of her. Soon after, she recalled the reason for her visit and spoke. Earlier, you weren't in a particularly good mood. What's wrong? I saw your big brother just now. My big brother? Su Yan arched her brows in surprise, then froze. You mean? Chapter 958. Chapter 958. Determination. When she heard this news, Su Yan was also stunned. After a long while, she finally sorted out her emotions and spoke in a very casual tone with the same smile that didn't make others feel burdened. Why did I see him? Isn't he already a demon? As soon as she said this, she laughed self-deprecatingly. That's right, he's a demon. You just went out to fight the demons. So how could you not see him? Her tone was calm as she answered her own question. Yi Zichen watched her force herself to smile. For a long time, he just looked at her without saying anything. Why are you looking at me like that? Su Yin blinked, then arched her brows and smiled. You can't possibly think I'd fall for him, right? I'm not as weak as you think I am. It was the same smile that didn't make anyone feel burdened. People who weren't familiar with her might not be able to tell, but Yi Zichen could. The curve of her lips and the way her eyes narrowed. It was as if she'd gone through hundreds of thousands of rounds of training. It was a fixed pattern. Is that really what you think? Yi Zichen looked at Su Yin for a while, then couldn't help but ask. That's right. Su Yin nodded confidently. Su Yun really is my big brother in the modern realm. and he treats me extremely well. If we'd stayed in the modern realm, he might have always been my doting big brother. It's just that this isn't the modern realm, and he's no longer my doting big brother. We'll go back sooner or later. Returning to the modern realm had always been Yi Zichen's goal. No matter what, this wasn't their final destination. No need to force yourself. Su Yin smiled and shook her head. I actually feel pretty good here. My modern realm friends are here, and so is my lover. Besides, if we really go back, I don't know how to explain it. Explain what? Yi Zichen didn't understand. Where did Su Yin go? Su Yin tilted her head and panted. He's my uncle's only precious son. If he asks me, what should I say? Am I supposed to tell him that he went to the demons and became their personal formation grandmaster? That wouldn't be good, would it? Su Yin tried her best to use a playful tone and even stuck out her tongue after speaking. She giggled, not wanting to distract Yi Zichen. She was very timid. Even now, she was still not used to everything here. Su Luer and Su Zhu treated her very well and treated her like a little princess. But to her, this was not her home. However, she didn't want her cowardice to affect Yi Zichen. No matter how ignorant she was, she knew that the man in her heart was shouldering far too many burdens, enough to crush anyone. She didn't want to be a burden on him, a burden on his shoulders. Sometimes, she really envied Xia Kiki. She was always so carefree and silly. It was as if she had never worried, nor would she let others worry for her. Little did she know, Yi Zichen was far too familiar with her. How could he not know what she was thinking? That's true. Yi Zichen didn't want to expose Su Yan's pretense, so he smiled at her, but his gaze remained resolute. We still have to go back. No matter where we go, I'll just follow you. Su Yan smiled sweetly, then rubbed the hem of her clothes. My big brother, Su Yan, has he really thrown in his lot with the demons? That's right. In the face of Su Yan's probing question, Yi Zichen's answer left no room for doubt. In the ambush, just now, we could have dealt with even more demons. That would have been even more helpful in our subsequent battles. However, his appearance stopped the demons from suffering any losses. If I wasn't sure before, now I'm absolutely certain. He's truly thrown in with the demons. That's truly a pity, sighed Su Yan. Then her expression grew solemn. When the time comes, when you fight, you absolutely mustn't show any mercy. Since you've already confirmed that he's truly thrown in with the demons, you should let go of your old feelings. I will. Yi Zichen sat on the ground, clenched his fists, and furrowed his brows. When the time comes, I definitely won't show any mercy. No one can stop me from seizing the future. Even if OL3 stands in my way, I'll deal with him myself. That's good. I'm relieved to hear that. Su Yin smiled and nodded. She put her hand to her forehead and looked up at the clouds. I won't disturb you any longer. See you? All right. When the time comes, you absolutely mustn't show any mercy. Got it? As if she was afraid that Yi Zichen would forget, Su Yin repeated herself with a tense expression before she left. I will. When she saw Yi Zichen nod, she finally turned and left. However, the moment she turned around, her shoulders trembled, and the warm smile on her face became especially lonely. I'm sorry. Yi Zichen watched Su Yin leave. He muttered to himself, then his gaze grew cold. I can't show mercy, and I have no way of holding back. Even if he's Su Yun. The vast demon army swept through the sky. By now, there was no longer any sorrow in their eyes. A great battle was imminent. Even if Black Dragon hadn't lectured them, they knew they couldn't let their emotions get the better of them. Ghoulie stood at the front of the army, shoulder to shoulder with Black Dragon. However, he felt a chill run down his spine the entire time. I never would have guessed that the Beast region would only ambush us in the valley. We didn't encounter any more ambushes along the way. At that moment, Ghoulie suddenly spoke up. Black Dragon glanced at him coolly and snorted. Could it be that you want more? Your Excellency, Black Dragon, you're too sensitive. Ghoulie shrugged helplessly. They didn't ambush us again. It seems they've decided to directly fight us to the death. Brother Ghoulie, you don't need to remind me of that, do you? Black Dragon replied indifferently, then arched his brows. We're about to reach the heart of the beast region, but I haven't seen any of your subordinates along the way. You're not planning on letting us deal with the beast region alone, so you can sit back and reap the benefits, are you? How is that possible? Since we're working together, there's no way I'd do something like that. Your Excellency, Black Dragon, you've mobilized all your forces. Naturally, my subordinates will join the battle as well. As soon as he finished speaking, Black Dragon saw a swarm of black figures approaching from the distance. There were 3 more figures in front of them. Before long, they saw them speeding towards Gu Li's location. Your Excellency, Gu Li, they were none other than Jiangchun, Hanba, and Ho Qing of the zombie progenitors. Behind them was an endless horde of bloodthirsty zombies. Gu Li nodded at them, then turned to Black Dragon and smiled. Chapter 9:59. The Empress arrives, thud, thud, thud. Hurried footsteps rang out from within the dragon race's main hall. When the clan heads saw the newcomer's solemn expression, their expressions froze. What's wrong? Xia Huan knit his brows and looked at the person in the hall. The demons have arrived. Whoosh. The atmosphere in the hall instantly froze. The 4 Sacred Beast clan heads all wore solemn expressions. I never would have guessed they'd arrive so quickly. The thin 2Bu furrowed his brows. In truth, they hadn't even finished setting up their formation. The clansmen they'd sent to test the 4-beast formation had yet to succeed. Just in time, Su Luer suddenly stood up from her chair. Her azure eyes flashed with a biting cold light, and the temperature in the hall dropped to an all-time low. The moisture in the air froze, turned into ice crystals, and fell to the ground. Whoosh! She disappeared. Before the heads of the 4 Sacred Beast clans could recover from the chill, they saw that Empress Su Luer was nowhere to be seen. Their hatred for the demons was nowhere near as deep as Su Luer's. The other sacred race patriarchs shook their heads and sighed as they watched him leave. Have you notified Emperor Yi? Emperor Yi has already left, said the person in the hall. The person in the hall spoke again. The other clan leaders looked at each other and smiled helplessly. Soon after, his expression turned cold as he said, "Let's go." The dragon race. As the leader of the beast region's peak clans, the dragon race was situated above the beast region's energy veins. Multicolored light illuminated the world. An immortal mist swirled about. Since the dragon race could fly from birth, their clan was situated at the peak of a mountain. There was no way to get here on foot. It was practically a dead end. Their vassal clans had landed on the plains outside their clan and received their protection. Above the void, the army of the devil race stopped majestically in midair. Below them, endless streams of blood zombies crawled their way. It seems they've really decided to fight to the death here. Gu Li couldn't help but arch his brows in surprise. Across from them, they could already see countless birds and beasts. They'd already split up into countless phalanxes, ready for battle. Although there weren't many of them, even the weakest among them was a peak human immortal. It could be said that all of the beast region's elites had been mobilized. Humph! Black Dragon, who was wielding a giant sword, snorted. In his eyes, this group of people were nothing more than ants. Those who could truly catch his eye had yet to appear. Inexplicably, Black Dragon, who stood proudly in the air, raised his eyebrows. Su Yun, who was sitting in his chair, continuously formed hand seals with his fingers. Rumble. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. The ground in front of the Devil Race army suddenly cracked open, and a stone wall over 1,000 feet high emerged from the crack, blocking the front of the Devil Race army. The demons and blood zombies froze. Soon after, they noticed the dense black clouds floating over their heads. Whoa! The howling of the gale resounded in everyone's ears. Snowflakes drifted down from the sky. Not long after, the gale mixed with the snowflakes formed a snowstorm that made everyone shiver. However, the snowstorm was completely blocked by the wall. Su Luer stood barefoot above Dragon City. She wore a long, azure dress and stood barefoot in the snow. Snowflakes swirled around her as her gaze fell upon the 100-foot-tall wall. Ha! A cold smile tugged at her lips. Then she reached out and grabbed the air. Hundreds of icicles formed from solid ice condensed under her grasp, and she gently pushed outwards. Whoosh, whoosh. The icicles in the air were all embedded into the wall, and cracks also appeared on the wall in front of the demons. Retreat. Noticing the cracks, Ian furrowed his brows and shouted angrily. Break! Her crimson lips parted, and the tall wall collapsed. Huge boulders fell. Even if the people of the devil race wanted to retreat from this range, it was inevitable that some of them would be injured. At that moment, someone lifted the crumbling stone wall high into the air. Black Dragon smiled calmly. He lifted the boulder high above his head, then hurled it at Suluar. When the demons in front of the dragon's gate saw the boulder, they trembled. Suluar snorted coolly. In an instant, a thin layer of ice covered the boulder. Then, with a rumble, it shattered into ice crystals and scattered to the ground like snowflakes. I was wondering who it was. So it's the Empress. Black Dragon stood proudly in the sky, a faint smile on his lips. Without the protection of the wall, he transformed into a tall wall for the demons. He allowed the blizzard to wreak havoc around him, but it couldn't get past him even a single step. The rampaging snowflakes left a thick layer on his body. Shortly after, he released his spiritual energy and dispersed the snowflakes on his body. Empress, aren't you being a bit too unfriendly? Sulu arched her brows and snorted. Do you think I need to be polite before resorting to force with you? You can't just waste your manners, can you? Who knows? We might even be able to negotiate. Black Dragon smiled amiably. His body transformed into a massive wall that blocked off the raging blizzard. Huh, you're pretty tough, huh? Sulu chuckled, then narrowed her eyes. 9 snow-white tails sprouted from her back, swaying in the wind. I like to see just how long you can endure. Suddenly, the wind outside the dragon's gate grew even more ferocious. A bloody gash appeared on Black Dragon's face, but before any blood could flow, the cold froze it. Black Dragon's expression darkened. He stared intently at Sulu, allowing the raging winds to leave marks on his face. He traced his fingers across his injured cheek, feeling the prickling pain in his skin. Empress, could it be that you're ignoring my words? The aura within his body gradually spread outwards, and the snowstorm that had been blowing on his body was also pushed away by him. The blizzard and Black Dragon's spiritual energy confronted each other. Why did the entire beast region send you out? Is there no one else capable? I don't want to attack you. I can't ruthlessly destroy a beauty. Tell Zichin to come out. I have a lot to say to him. Black Dragon's eyes were dark. He'd never forgotten the pleasant surprise Zichin had given him. As for Sulua, heroes were inevitably attracted to beautiful women. He was no exception. He could be cold-blooded, but when it came to someone like Sulur, he was a little tempted. Of course, that was on the premise that Sulu didn't stand in his way. Why do you have so much to say? However, in response to Black Dragon's threatening tone, Sulu's expression darkened. Chapter 960. Sorry. Up in the sky, a blizzard raged. Sulur tapped the ground lightly, her willowy brows knitted together, and she formed a hand seal. Roar of ice. Roar. Amidst the raging snowstorm, a white tiger roared at the sky and charged at the Black Dragon. Black Dragon stood proudly in the sky. He snorted coldly, then raised his sword. He stared intently at the white tiger, mentally calculating the distance between them. As the white tiger leapt into the air and pounced at him, his sword flashed with purple light. He swung it viciously. Slash. Crash. The white tiger's icy aura shattered. Black Dragon lowered his sword, a mocking smile tugging at the corners of his lips. I take back what I said. I have to say, after all this time, you haven't improved at all. Damn it. Sulur gnashed her teeth. In that short period of time, they'd exchanged no less than 100 blows. But her spiritual techniques couldn't even break through her opponent's sword defense. Even before coming here, she'd steeled her heart to avenge Yuan Hong's death. But if she couldn't even break through his sword defense, how could she talk about revenge? Guli had yet to attack. He simply stood to the side, smiling playfully, The man in the wheelchair didn't look like an ordinary person either. Her enemy was standing right in front of her, but she couldn't get her revenge. Empress, this battle is no longer something you can control. Go call Yi Zichen over. Creak. Su Luer couldn't help but clench her fists at his contempt. Undisguisable fury appeared on her breathtaking face. Haha, is that so? But right now, I'm the only one here, and your only opponent is me. As she spoke, Su Luer took a step forward. With a rumble, the aura around her changed. HM. Off in the distance, Black Dragon couldn't help but frown. As soon as Su Luer spoke, he realized that the aura around her had suddenly changed. It was still as cold and piercing as ever, but there was a faint, heart-trembling quality to it. Phone! Just as Su Luer opened her mouth, someone grabbed her arm and pressed it against her shoulder. Sister Luer, don't be rash. Yi Zichen appeared before her in his black robes. He smiled calmly at her, then narrowed his eyes at Black Dragon and the others. Lord Black Dragon, we meet again. Are you satisfied with the gift I gave you? Su Luer struggled fiercely in his grasp and shouted angrily over and over. Let me go. Yi Zichen, Black Dragon, who had been smiling all this time, had a dark expression on his face. Right now, he wanted nothing more than to peel off his skin, pull out his tendons, and drink his blood. However, none of that could appease the hatred in his heart. However, after being the lord of the devil race for so long, he naturally still had some shrewdness. Of course I'm satisfied. That gift can no longer be considered a gift. It's a pleasant surprise. Let me go. Su Luer continued to struggle. Yi Zichen knit his brows and looked at her. Sister Luer, calm down. You haven't fully recovered from your injuries, so how can you possibly be their match? What do you know? Su Luer roared. What do I not know? Don't you just want to open the seal in your body? Su Luer's expression froze as she stared blankly into Yi Zichen's eyes. How could he possibly know? The nine-tailed fox was one of the primordial divine beasts of the upper three realms. The purer their bloodline was, the faster their strength increased. The pure blood of the nine-tailed fox flowed through her veins. If she wanted to, she could have ascended long ago. However, she couldn't let go of her clan, which was why she'd left 3 seals in her body. Only she and Su Zhu knew about this. Su Zhu told you? Big sister Su Zhu didn't tell me anything. I just overheard it one night. Yi Zichen glanced at her coolly. I know you want to avenge Yuan Hong, but you haven't reached the point where you absolutely have to open the seal. Besides, when you place the seal, you had a time limit. Don't you know how damaging it will be to you if you forcefully open it? That's none of your business, said Su Luer, still frowning. I'm doing this for you. I don't need it. Before Yi Zichen could finish, Su Luer cut him off coldly. Yi Zichen, don't think too highly of yourself. I'm just giving Lil Yin face and Su Zhu putting in a good word for you. That's why I'm treating you better, understand? My business is none of your business. Get out of my way, or I'll kill you too. Revenge. Right now, all she could think about was revenge. The only thing keeping Su Luer alive was revenge. She wanted to kill all the demons and zombies. She wanted to send them to the 18th layer of hell. She wanted them to never be able to reincarnate. Su Luer's eyes blazed with intense, killing intent. Black Dragon and the others saw it all. Ghoulie couldn't help but sneer. Internal strife? TCH, that's quite interesting. However, Su Luer ignored Ghoulie's teasing. She simply stared intently at Yi Zichen. Let go. Yi Zichen could already feel the coldness radiating from her arm. After a brief hesitation, he let go and took a step back. Humph. Su Luer snorted coldly, then took a step forward. However, just as her aura locked on a Black Dragon and the others, Yi Zichen, who'd retreated to the side, flipped his hand. His figure flickered, and he waved the powder in front of Su Luer's nose. I'm sorry, Big Sister Luer. Lil Yin and Big Sister Su Zhu are worried about you. They don't want anything to happen to you. Su Luer flopped into Yi Zichen's arms. A moment later, he saw Su Zhu dart past him. Zichen, thank you. It's nothing. Hurry up and take Big Sister Luer to rest. Just now, she forcefully broke through the seal. She's already damaged her meridians quite a bit. Yi Zichen placed Su Luer in Su Zhu's arms, then turned around and looked coldly at the vast army of demons and zombies. Emperor Yi, you're just going to give up on such a powerful opponent? Guli pursed his lips and chuckled, but Yi Zichen ignored him. Instead, he fixed his gaze on a certain spot in their midst. I won't hold back. Oh, Emperor Yi, are you threatening us? Asked Guli. Really? I absolutely won't hold back, said Yi Zichen. However, Yi Zichen continued to stare fixedly at a certain spot. Only now did Guli realize that Yi Zichen wasn't talking to him. Yi Zichen followed his gaze and saw that Su Yun was also staring straight ahead. Soon after, he pursed his lips and nodded lightly. Chapter 9:61. You can try. Emperor Yi, are you threatening Brother Su right in front of me? Do you have no respect for me? When he heard their conversation, Black Dragon knit his brows, took a few steps forward, and said solemnly, You're on your own. You're on your own. At this moment, Yi Zichen didn't care about anyone else. He simply snorted at Su Yun, ignored Black Dragon's rebuke, and looked away. Su Yun's lips were still pressed into a smile. He nodded at Black Dragon and said nothing else. What a heart-wrenching conversation. Back in a modern realm, Brother Su and Emperor Ye's friendship was the envy of all. Guli sneered like a clown, but before he could say anything else, he felt a piercing glare directed his way. Guli followed that gaze and noticed that Su Yun was looking at him with narrowed eyes. The warning in Su Yun's gaze made him instinctively gulp. He obediently shut his mouth and stopped mocking Yi Zichen. Black Dragon had witnessed all of this. Even he, who was naturally paranoid, could guess many possibilities from the events that had transpired. Emperor Yi, whoosh whoosh whoosh. The four Sacred Beast clan heads landed by Yi Zichen's side. They nodded at him, then looked at the other side. They won't be easy to deal with. The patriarchs all had the same thought in their minds. Demons, blood zombies, 1,000,000 of them bore down on them. They hadn't even started fighting, but they could sense their overwhelming power. They hadn't expected that. Even after Yi Zichen had killed more than half of their forces, they still had so many left. It was easy to imagine how bitter their battle outside Maple City had been. Behind the patriarchs of the four sacred clans, flags were fluttering in the wind. The elites of the Beast region's various clans had arrived, as well as experts from every city in the Immortal region. Flower petals drifted down from the sky. The members of the 100 Flowers Gate had once again joined the fray. After losing Hua Hai, their chief disciple, Li Jiai, was now the new head of the gate. However, she was still too weak. There was no way she could hold her own. She'd only become the head of the gate in line. She still had elders by her side to assist her. TSK, look at their gazes. Guli tilted his head and couldn't help but be speechless. Most of the outsiders from the Beast region and Immortal region had participated in the great battle in Maple City. They had all tasted the pain of losing their loved ones, and their resentment towards the Devil race was even deeper. To them, it was no longer as simple as protecting their territory. They still had to avenge those who had died. The entire Beast region was filled with a bone-chilling, desolate aura. Compared to the struggle between the three kingdoms, Wei and Shu, the current situation was far superior. They're all here. Not bad, not bad. Saves me the trouble of looking for them alone. Looking at the vast army above Dragon City, Black Dragon smiled. Faced with the murderous intent that surged into the clouds, he took a step forward without a care. This one step drew the attention of everyone on the Beast region's side. Everyone was on high alert. Seeing this, Black Dragon couldn't help but laugh heartily. Don't be too nervous, everyone. You little bastard. You really know how to talk nonsense. Lei Hu, the head of the White Tiger clan, grinned and snorted. But to tell the truth, I rather admire you. You managed to get that viper to betray the Beast region and collude with you. It really is true that birds of a feather flock together. Impudent, roared the demon's sovereign behind him. Black Dragon reached out and motioned for him to retreat. Colluding with villains? Isn't that a bit too harsh? Brother Tung Een was just adapting to the circumstances. The general situation is set. Our demon race will definitely trample the three realms and take it for our own. No matter how stubbornly you resist, you won't be able to reverse the situation. Interesting. Lehu sneered disdainfully. Black Dragon, on the other hand, smiled indifferently. He seemed completely confident. I'm not a bloodthirsty person, so don't say I didn't give you a chance. If you lay down your arms and surrender now, I might spare your lives. Coincidentally, I'm also lacking a few mounts. You could be my mounts. That's perfect. What's the point? At that moment, Yi Zichen sighed, stepped forward, and said, What's the point? What's the point of shooting your mouth off here? Emperor Yi, what are you talking about? I'm thinking on your behalf. Black Dragon pursed his lips into a smile. Our war has plunged countless lives into misery and suffering. I don't want you to make pointless sacrifices, so I'll give you a way out, right? Is that so? Emperor Yi, we know you won't surrender, said Guli. Guli stepped forward and smiled. But even if you don't surrender, that doesn't mean the people behind you won't surrender, right? Don't force your own opinions on them. There are no cowards in the Beast region, snorted 2BU. Yes or no? I don't know if you dare to let me go and ask. Guli's face was brimming with confidence. Then he turned to the various clans in the sky and said, If you want to surrender, you can come out now. We won't attack you. Whoosh. To everyone's surprise, some of the Beast region's people really were visibly moved. I'm withdrawing. The army behind them was in an uproar. Like a fuse, a constant stream of people left their ranks and ran towards the demons. I'm withdrawing too. I don't want to die. More and more people fled, but Guli simply smiled and nodded. That's more like it. If you want to leave, just say the word. We'll definitely let you live. Morale was low. As they watched their clansmen flee in panic, the 4 Sacred Beast clan heads' faces turned ashen. Boom! A beam of light shot out, and the mountains in the distance were instantly blasted into smithereens. If anyone dares run, this will be your fate. Lehu's eyes widened. The fleeing Beast region clansmen hesitated for a moment, but then they heard someone shout, Brothers, there's no need for us to die here. Lehu is heartless. He dares threaten us? Lehu is heartless. He dares threaten us? If we continue to risk our lives for him, wouldn't that be stupid? Charge out and join the demons. The incitement came to an abrupt halt. All they saw was Yi Zichen clenching a Beast region clansman's neck. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth onto his arm. Yi Zichen's cold gaze intimidated the eager Beast region clansman. At the same time, he tossed the instigator to the ground. Chapter 962. The entire sky above Dragon City fell silent. Practically everyone in the immortal region watched coldly from the sidelines. They could even sense faint disdain in their gazes. They were all people who'd experienced bloody battles. They'd witnessed firsthand the cruelty of war. If they'd wanted to retreat, they wouldn't have appeared here in the first place. As for the Beast region clansmen, who'd been scared witless before the battle had even begun, they disdained them. Yi Zichen tossed the instigator to the ground. He just so happened to land near the walking beasts. The corpse fell heavily to the ground, causing their expressions to freeze. Then they gulped and looked at Yi Zichen with indescribable reverence. As for the bird clansmen who'd wanted to flee, they'd seen Yi Zichen kill one of them with lightning speed. They didn't dare utter a single word. As for the thought of fleeing, they buried it deep in their hearts. They wanted to run for their lives, but if they ran, they'd die at Yi Zichen's hands before the demons could even attack them. It seems no one wants to try. Yi Zichen swept his icy gaze across the clansmen. Those who'd once doubted him lowered their heads guiltily. They didn't dare look him in the eye. Since that's the case, all of you, keep your spirits up. If I see another deserter, don't blame me for being merciless. Of course, you're welcome to try deserting in the middle of battle. He pointed to his eyes, then at the Beast region clansmen. I'll keep my eyes on you. After intimidating them, Yi Zichen snorted coldly and returned to the heads of the 4 Sacred Beast clans. He bowed to Zhuge Hong, the head of the Vermilion Bird clan. The Vermilion Bird clan could be considered the leader of the Flying Clansmen. Just now, he'd killed the instigator. He had to apologize to Zhuge Hong. Clan head Zhuge, please forgive us. As he cupped his fists, you could see the blood on his hands. It's no problem. Even if Emperor Yi hadn't done anything, I would have done it myself. Zhuge Hong shook his head. Lei Hu laughed. What's there to apologize for? The Beast region doesn't need cowards. Emperor Yi did the right thing. If he hadn't done this, our army's morale would have crumbled. I just never would have guessed there really were cowards among us. As he spoke, his gaze fell upon the walking beasts. His gaze was oppressive. As long as you don't blame me. Yi Zichen smiled at them, then looked deeply at Gu Li. Not bad. You've infiltrated us quite deeply. Brother Yi is too kind. In terms of methods, Brother Yi is the best. His attack was ruthless and suppressed the commotion in an instant. I'm impressed. Gu Li wasn't too surprised by Yi Zichen's actions. Even if he didn't do it, he believed that the other patriarchs would do it. Even if they didn't use their brains to think, they couldn't really let that group of cowards escape. This would shake the morale of the army. However, the effect was already there. Although the wave of provocation hadn't been completely unleashed, if Yi Zichen had moved a bit slower, the result might have been more interesting. What a pity. Black Dragon subconsciously glanced at Gu Li. This guy really had an endless stream of tricks up his sleeve. The instigation just now must have been planted by him in the Beast region. Thinking of his various actions, Black Dragon was a little worried. Did this guy have any spies in the Devil Race? On the way here, Gu Li had explained quite a bit, but who would dare believe someone like that? Right now, he could only believe half of it. As for the other half, he could only take a gamble. Humph. Yi Zichen snorted coldly, then ignored him. He'd fought Gu Li many times, so he was used to this sort of thing. He just looked at the back of the demons indifferently, secretly calculating the time in his heart. They should be here soon. A few hours ago, he'd already contacted the Immortal Region, Underworld, and Heavenly Court. He'd even set up an ambush in the valley and bought them quite a bit of time. Based on his calculations, they should be here by now. Not far away, Gu Li noticed his expression. His eyes darted around, and he pursed his lips into a smile. Emperor Yi, what are you looking for? HM, snorted Yi Zichen. Ha, in truth, you could have set the battlefield right where you first entered the Beast region, but you didn't. Instead, you put us in the heart of the Beast region and set the battlefield right outside of Dragon City. If you lose here, you'll have no chance at all. Emperor Yi is no fool. You couldn't have foreseen this outcome, yet you still let us in. There must be a deeper meaning to this, right? Gu Li smiled calmly, his eyes gleaming as if he'd long since seen through everything. In the face of Gu Li's questioning, Yi Zichen replied calmly, Of course there's a deeper meaning. Of course there's a deeper meaning. You had the Flying Serpent clan betray the Beast region and destroy the Grand Formation. If we set the main battlefield at the borders of the Beast region, that would be truly foolish. As for why I let you in, why should I tell you? Yi Zichen arched his brows, then Gu Li turned around. He looked at the endless horde of demons, as well as the blood zombies below. He cocked his head to the side, then turned back and smiled. Let me guess. Emperor Yi arranged for someone to surround us from behind, didn't he? As for who it was it someone from the Underworld, Immortal Region, or Heavenly Court? Gu Li craned his neck and studied Yi Zichen's expression. It seems I guessed right. What's there to guess? Anyone could figure it out, right? Yi Zichen wasn't angry that Gu Li had exposed him. Anyone could make such a simple deduction. All they'd worried about was whether or not they'd come in. This was far too obvious. They'd worried about Gu Li and the demons, so they'd been too cautious to enter. You knew you'd be surrounded, yet you still came in? It seems you're quite confident. You want to challenge the entire 3 realms? No. Emperor Yi must be joking. No matter how arrogant we are, we wouldn't be so arrogant as to challenge the entire 3 realms at the same time. Don't you think so? Gu Li frantically waved his hands. Then you still dare come? Huh. Yi Zichen sneered, but before he could finish, he noticed Gu Li's faint smile and his previous answer. If he'd thought of it, how could he possibly have come? Since he'd come, he'd undoubtedly made thorough preparations. You should know me. I'm a coward. I knew I'd be surrounded, yet I still came. Given your understanding of me, tell me, why exactly did I do this? In an instant, Yi Zichen's heart froze. You attacked them? Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes into slits and asked solemnly. Guli smiled faintly and nodded, then laughed casually. Chapter 963. Chapter 963, Treasure Pagoda Whoosh Whoosh. A bolt of lightning and a streak of fire shot through the sky, leaving behind two faint traces. Behind these two beams of light, countless auspicious clouds followed closely behind. Uncle Thunder, what did you mean just now? Why didn't I understand? Little Neza blinked his large eyes as he stood on his wind and fire wheels. If any of the Heavenly Court's royal sisters saw his adorable appearance, they'd definitely spoil him. You said my father was in danger? Why would he be in danger? If the underworld is in trouble, shouldn't we go help? If the underworld is in trouble, we should indeed help, but the problem is that we're in trouble as well. Thunder God's surroundings crackled with lightning. He'd already pushed his spiritual energy to the limit and rushed towards Heavenly King Li as quickly as he could. The underworld was in trouble. There was no need to think too much about the details of the sudden change at this time. It was already the appointed time, but no one from the Immortal Region had arrived yet. It was very likely that the Immortal Region situation was similar to the Underworld's. Why was Heavenly King Li in trouble? If he remembered correctly, the Count of Wind and Master of Rain had once been Chio's old friend. If everything was as he thought, then the Count of Wind and Master of Rain were definitely working for the demons. Back then, he and Neza were both present. Their military strength was greater than theirs, which was why the Count of Wind and Master of Rain hadn't dared show up. That was why he purposefully provoked him into leaving. I actually fell for that old bastard's trap. Thunder God couldn't help but clench his fists. Without another word, he shot forward with all his might. Ding! The treasure pagoda collided with the Count of Wind's flexible sword and flew back into Heavenly King Li's hand. Huh! His chest heaved violently. His battle robes were already torn in many places. He clutched his chest and gasped for breath. The veins on his neck and forehead were all bulging. There was a golden silk rope tied around his right wrist, and there was a black line extending towards his chest from his wrist. You traitors! Eyes bloodshot, Heavenly King Li half-knelt on the ground. He formed a seal with his right hand and tossed the treasure pagoda high into the air. Up in the sky, Heavenly King Li's treasure pagoda instantly grew to a height of 300 meters. Its pitch-black base faced the nearby Count of Wind and Master of Rain. Return. Devour the heavens and devour the earth. The enormous devouring force uprooted the rocks and ancient trees on the ground and sucked them into the tower. The heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were also sucked into the tower. However, even under this devouring power, the Count of Wind and Master of Rain remained unmoved. How? Heavenly King Li was stunned. His Linglong treasure pagoda could suppress all kinds of demons and immortals. From peak stage immortal kings to early stage body refinement realm cultivators, no one could escape his pagoda suppression. The Count of Wind and Master of Rain stood at the bottom of the tower, but there were no signs of them being swallowed. Pooh! Heavenly King Li spat out a mouthful of blood. The black line on his arm struggled free of the golden line's restraints and burrowed into his chest. Heavenly King Li, I warned you long ago that you can't use your immortal spiritual energy recklessly. The more you use it, the closer you are to death. The Count of Feng rubbed his chin with his skinny hand and chuckled. His expression was filled with playfulness. When Heavenly King Li's gaze fell on his arm, he no longer hesitated. An immortal sword suddenly appeared in his left hand. Then he raised it and ruthlessly chopped down on his right arm. Sizzle. Blood sprayed wildly. Blood continuously flowed out of the wound on his shoulder. Heavenly King Li hurriedly sealed the acupoints on his shoulder. The Count of Wind and Master of Rain were stunned. They hadn't expected Heavenly King Li to be so resolute. Severed arm. After all, the price of reconstructing an immortal's body was extremely high. Moreover, it was the body of immortals who were widely sought after. OL Li, why must you do this? The Count of Wind's eyes were filled with disappointment, as well as some admiration. To tell the truth, if it were him, he really wouldn't have Heavenly King Lee's courage. In truth, their goal was simple: to keep Heavenly King Lee busy. Right now, the Heavenly Court's internal defenses were weak. All of their main forces had been sent out to fight the demons. Only the Canopy Marshal and the curtain-lifting Great General remained to guard the Heavenly Court. The others were just small fries, nothing to worry about. They were also using this opportunity to deal with the remaining people in the Heavenly Court. As for the Count of Wind and Master of Rain, they'd only come to keep Heavenly King Lee busy for a moment. That was why he'd poisoned Heavenly King Lee when he wasn't paying attention. The poison's effects were simple. As long as he didn't use any spiritual energy, he'd be fine. However, if he used too much spiritual energy, it would spread from the area between his thumb and forefinger to his heart. As long as he could reach his heart, he'd definitely die. The poison seemed powerful, but as long as Heavenly King Lee didn't move, he'd be fine. They'd never thought about fighting Heavenly King Lee. They just wanted to keep him here for a bit longer. They never expected him to be so stubborn. Why bother? One-armed Heavenly King Lee reached out with his left hand, and the exquisite pagoda returned to his palm. He stared intently at the Count of Wind and Master of Rain and snorted. Why did you betray the Heavenly Court and join the demons? The Jade Emperor was benevolent all those years ago. He bestowed upon you the positions of immortals and treated you well. Yet now you want to rebel? Well, Lee, we had no choice, the Count of Wind sighed. I know we're letting down the Jade Emperor, the exalted god, but we really had no choice. A wise man submits to circumstances. The demons are powerful now. Are we really going to fight them like a mantis trying to stop a chariot? Submits to circumstances, huh? Heavenly King Lee sneered disdainfully. But why can't I see how powerful they are? Their current accomplishments are all thanks to cowards like you. Well, Lee, you don't understand at all. The Count of Wind's weather-beaten face was solemn. He looked up into the sky, as if trying to see through everything. Have you ever wondered why the immortal region and the underworld didn't keep their word? Heavenly King Lee's entire body shook. Even the hand holding the exquisite pagoda trembled. I never would have guessed that the demons would have such tricks up their sleeves. It seems like you have been plotting this for a long time to plant people in our 3 holy lands. Many of the Heavenly Court's heavenly generals died because of you, right? It was me, said the Count of Wind. We've been plotting this for a long time, but think about it. How could the demons alone have the ability to stir up so much trouble for all 3 factions? Just them? Can they do it? That's your problem. What does it have to do with me? I don't know what they're capable of. Are you trying to tell me that there's someone even more powerful backing the demons? The human gods? The demon gods? The Yao gods? You're not going to tell me that the primordial shamans are supporting them, are you? What if I say yes? The Count of Wind replied with a straight face. His tone instantly stunned Heavenly King Lee, but he quickly composed himself and snorted. Even if that's the case, I will definitely punish the traitors. As soon as he finished speaking, the exquisite pagoda in Heavenly King Lee's hand began to tremble violently. Chapter 964. Emperor of Supreme Polarity. Ding, 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 ding. In the void above, the 6th floor of the Linglong Treasure Pagoda lit up. The suction force at the bottom of the pagoda instantly multiplied. The surrounding space was torn apart by it, and a black hole formed at the bottom of the pagoda. Seeing that the Linglong Pagoda had opened to the 6th floor, the Count of Wind and Master of Rain revealed a surprised expression. Oldly, must you do this? As soon as he finished speaking, the Count of Foam saw blood trickle down the corner of Heavenly King Lee's mouth. However, his face was filled with determination. There's nothing I can do about it. I was born with a tough bone. Collect. The black hole at the bottom of the tower kept spinning. When the Count of Wind and Master of Rain saw this, his expression changed. You don't know what's good for you. Rumble. The entire void was instantly filled with dark clouds, the wind howled, and a torrential rain fell. The torrential downpour caused the surrounding river surface to rise. The water flowed over the embankment and submerged the farmhouses under the embankment. The surging river water caused the houses to collapse, and many ugly water monsters appeared on the surface of the river. Go. The water monsters on the surface of the river soared into the sky. The howling winds and crushed rocks made it difficult for Heavenly King Li to breathe. The exquisite pagoda above his head also dimmed at this moment. There was nothing he could do about it. Heavenly King Li was too heavily injured. Forcefully activating the sixth layer was not something he could handle. Old Li, don't blame me. The Count of Wind and the Master of Rain silently closed their eyes. Heavenly thunder breaking all barriers. Boom! Thunder suddenly exploded in the void. Before the sound of thunder faded, Thunder God was surrounded by lightning. He held the Thunder God hammer in his hand and slammed it down. A bolt of lightning struck the water monster, and a fiery red ribbon struck the surrounding water monsters. Pooh! Pu. The water monster instantly turned back into water droplets and returned to the surface of the river. Third Prince Neza stood on his windfire wheels, braving the wind and rain as he shielded Heavenly King Li with his petite body. When his gaze fell on Heavenly King Li's severed arm, the third Prince's Shoda immediately revealed a vicious expression. You all deserve to die. Universe Ring, come out. He straightened his arm, and the ring of heaven and earth that he always wore immediately burrowed out of his arm. With tremendous force, it smashed fiercely towards the Count of Wind and Master of Rain. Humph! In the distance, the Count of Wind and Master of Rain snorted at the same time. The Heaven and Earth Ring was an ancient divine weapon that could destroy anything. They did not think that they could withstand this attack, so they did not dare to hesitate. They quickly dodged the attack of the Universe Ring. However, the Universe Ring that flew out turned back and smashed into the Count of the Wind's back. Pooh! Count of Wind, who had been struck by the Universe Ring, felt a sweet taste in his throat. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. The Rain Master wanted to go over and help, but a bolt of lightning exploded in front of him. In a panic, he instinctively rolled to the side and dodged the lightning strike. Only then did he see that the God of Thunder had already landed beside Li Jing. I knew it. You bunch of ill-intentioned fellows. The Heaven and Earth Ring, which had taken advantage of him, did not show off. It returned to Neza's hands. Father, after glaring viciously at the Count of Wind and Master of Rain, Neza hurriedly took out a pill and stuffed it into Li Jing's mouth. The God of Thunder also noticed Li Jing's severed arm at this moment. His eyes were about to spit fire as he shouted angrily. Count of Wind and Master of Rain, how dare you? I've already reported this to the Heavenly Palace. Just wait for your deaths. Ha. The Count of Wind, who'd been struck by the Universe Ring, laughed wantonly. I'm just afraid that the Heavenly Palace you trust so much won't be able to help. The Cloudy Palace of the Golden Arches. The North Pole Emperor sat in the Jade Emperor's former seat, his expression grave. Almost all the exalted immortals in the palace were present. However, they were all civil officials. Not a single general was present. Your Majesty, the God of Thunder, and the others have also been attacked. The God of Fortune put down his phone and spoke with a grave expression. As soon as he finished speaking, the North Pole Emperor slammed his palm down on the armrest. Boom! The armrest was smashed by him as he gritted his teeth and shouted angrily. They didn't rebel when the Jade Emperor was around, but they rebelled when I ascended to the throne. They're deliberately making things difficult for me. Who gave him the guts to do so? His anger was monstrous. The civil officials in the hall all kept quiet out of fear, not daring to speak. I really have a good brother, his knuckles cracked. Just an hour ago, the Western Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity led his troops to attack the Heavenly Court. Their army was so powerful that Emperor Ziwei felt a sense of pressure. Almost all the generals who stayed behind in the Heavenly Courts went to face the enemy, but the situation of the battle was chilling. Reporting, the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's men have already attacked the Sixth Heaven. Reporting, the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's men have already attacked the Seventh Heaven. Reporting, the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's men have already attacked the Eighth Heaven. There were countless battle reports, but not a single one of them reported victory. The North Pole Emperor's expression grew darker and darker as he sat in the cloudy palace of the Golden Arches. Bang! At that moment, the mighty miracle god, who was guarding outside the soaring Heaven King Palace, was kicked in. Shortly after, a silver-haired man wearing thick armor walked in from outside the hall. His body was suffused with a somber aura. In his hand was the canopy marshal, whose fate was unknown and whom the North Pole Emperor had dispatched to face the enemy. Everyone's pupils constricted involuntarily. North Pole, supreme polarity. The two brothers stared at each other, sparks flying as their gazes met. Descend from that seat. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's tone was unquestionable. He narrowed his eyes at the North Pole Emperor. That seat shouldn't belong to you. Then who should it belong to, my brother? The North Pole Emperor's expression darkened. Not long ago, my brother congratulated me. I never would have guessed that in such a short time, my brother would lead an army against me. Since you wanted this seat, why didn't you say so earlier? I'll give it to you. Tisich. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity suddenly sneered disdainfully. You think I care about the position of Jade Emperor? How laughable. If I wanted this seat, what right did the Jade Emperor have to fight with me back then? Since that's the case, why have you come, my brother? The corners of the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's eyes twitched. He said, that seat isn't for you. Descend. Didn't you still want this seat, my brother? A harsh light flashed through the North Pole Emperor's eyes. Take your men and get the hell out of here. I can let bygones be bygones for the sake of our former brotherhood. North Pole, do you still remember that I was the one who taught you how to fight back then? Are you threatening me right now? The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity narrowed his eyes and smiled. Threatening? Do you really think you can threaten my 300,000 elite troops with the remnants of your army? As he spoke, the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity picked up the canopy marshal and tossed him in front of the North Pole Emperor. Chapter 965. Chapter 965. The golden cicada. When he saw the canopy marshal crash to the ground, the North Pole Emperor's expression flickered. Take the marshal to the Elder Lord to heal his wounds, said the North Pole Emperor. Yu Lao walked out, picked up the canopy marshal, whose fate was unknown, and disappeared from the Great Hall. Yu Lao said to the immortals in the hall. The other immortals gulped inwardly, judging by the canopy marshal's injuries. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's intentions were clear. You do have the bearing of the ruler of the Heavenly Court now. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity smiled calmly, then glanced at the other immortals. When they sensed his gaze, more than half of the immortals didn't dare meet his gaze. What are you planning by having these people stay here? Are you trying to boost your courage? Elder brother, do you really have to do this? Asked the North Pole Emperor. Cracking his neck, the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity tossed his massive sword onto the floor with a bang. All I want is for you to step down from that position. Step down, step down, step down. Outside the hall, the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's soldiers raised their weapons and shouted. Every immortal in the cloudy palace of the Golden Arches trembled at the sight of this. Rumble. At that moment, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Even the North Pole Emperor shuddered at the sight of this bolt of lightning. This was the Heavenly Court. Only the people above could send lightning here. Do you see that? This is the will of the heavens. The will of the heavens cannot be defied. Little brother, step down. I don't covet this position. As long as I obtain what I deserve, this position will still be yours. What do you want to obtain? Transcend. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's expression was wild and unyielding. I don't care about power or status. All I want is transcendence. I want to travel to an even vaster world to display my power. To me, this place is too small. It can't contain me. Is this your reason for colluding with the demons? Asked the North Pole Emperor in a low voice. How can you call it collusion? We're just taking what we need. They need me to intimidate the immortals of the Heavenly Court during this period of time. When the time comes, I will ascend with their help, and you can inherit the throne and fight against the demons. This emperor only wants to ascend. This emperor doesn't care about the righteousness and reputation between you two. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity's expression was one of unbridled arrogance. In his eyes, his world couldn't be limited to this tiny little place. He needed a bigger stage to show himself. He was arrogant. Back then, the Jade Emperor's position should have been his, but he didn't care about the so-called false reputation, nor did he want those trivial matters to affect his mind. Indeed, back then, the Jade Emperor's external strength might have been stronger than his. However, his Tao was deeper than the Jade Emperor's. He had comprehended the strongest Tao will of the 3,000 great Taos, destruction. His progress was slow, but as long as he mastered it, he would be invincible. However, he was too arrogant. The path of the great Tao of destruction was difficult. For tens of thousands of years, he was unable to take another step forward. He never would have imagined that the Jade Emperor, whom he'd once looked down on, would ascend before him. Meanwhile, he himself was still stuck at the threshold of the peak of the immortal king realm. He couldn't take another step forward. He was arrogant. He refused to accept this. He didn't want to fall behind others. He walked the path of the strongest great Tao, yet he fell behind others. This was a huge blow to the proud and unruly Wang Chong. However, not long ago, someone had contacted him and promised him that if he could control the heavenly court, that person would help him cross the threshold he'd always been unable to cross. He wasn't stupid. He wouldn't believe such words easily. However, that person had indeed given him a taste of sweetness. His stagnant strength had actually improved, so he'd cooperate. As for the greater good of the three realms, the lives and deaths of all living things, what did that have to do with him? They were mere ants. How could they stand in his way of the great Tao? No one could stand in the way of his great Tao, even if it was his own brother. Anyone who dared stand in his way would be killed. That is indeed like you. The North Pole Emperor nodded. No one understood the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity better than he did. He was that kind of person, as selfish to the extreme. Since you know you're like me, hurry up and give up your position. Otherwise, you should know that I won't show you any mercy, roared the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity. Roared the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity. He'd already given his twin brother enough face. If anyone else had dared speak to him like this, he might have slapped them to death already. However, even though they were brothers, he still appeared impatient and murderous. Can I ask you a few questions? Emperor Ziwei once again changed the subject. Ask away, snorted the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity. Is it the same for the underworld and the immortal region? Yes. The underworld's 5 ghost emperors have taken action. They're probably causing a ruckus right now. The immortal region is their internal strife. However, I'm different from them. They're truly interested in the supreme position. I'm just trying to achieve my goal. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity smiled calmly. His expression seemed to say that he was far more noble than those people. When the other immortals heard this, their hearts sank. They hadn't expected the underworld and the immortal region to be affected as well. For so many powerful figures to rebel at the same time, just who was standing behind the demons? While everyone was pondering this, the North Pole Emperor had already asked the question. He understood the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity far too well. He'd definitely tell them. Who's standing behind the demons? How did they manage to convince all of you at the same time? If I remember correctly, you walk the Grand Tao of Destruction, a Grand Tao no one in the entire 3 realms has ever chased away. I can't say. They won't let me say it either, snorted the Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity snorted. However, I can tell you that Expert isn't standing on the demon's side. He's connected to me, a child named Guli. He appeared before me as that Expert's representative. As such, you don't need to worry. The demons have no one supporting them. Once I leave, you can fight however you want. So that's how it is. The North Pole Emperor nodded in understanding. The Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity spoke up. This Emperor has already helped you solve your problem. So shouldn't you also make things convenient for this Emperor? Amipa. At that moment, a golden cicada suddenly descended from the sky. A moment later, it transformed into a monk and appeared before everyone's eyes. Golden cicada. Everyone in the hall arched their brows. The The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity's expression darkened. You people from the Buddhist region want to get involved too? Chapter 966. Primordial divine Belhi was a monk who once prayed to Buddha in the Western paradise for the Tang of the East. His former companion was Golden Cicada. It was just that in the past, he had secretly slept under Shakyamuni and was discovered by Buddha, so he was banished to the mortal world. After experiencing 81 tribulations, he finally achieved enlightenment and returned to the ranks of immortals. He was originally Shakyamuni's most beloved disciple. When he saw him, the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity's great enemy mistakenly believed he represented the Buddhist domain. Interesting. The atmosphere in the palace changed slightly the moment Golden Cicada appeared. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity pursed his lips playfully and arched his brows. I'm here for your disciple. I almost forgot. That pigman was once your disciple. Your first disciple is a monkey spirit. Your second disciple is a pig spirit. And your third disciple is a fish spirit. How interesting. The pigman was naturally referring to the canopy marshal. However, it didn't give him any face by calling him a pigman. From his words, one could also sense his arrogance and condescension. He treated everyone with disdain. I didn't expect the emperor to still be so unruly after so many years. A long time ago, the Buddhist ancestor once sought out the emperor and pointed out that the emperor's personality is too arrogant. The great Tao of destruction that you cultivate has caused the emperor's violent tendencies to be too strong. Golden Cicada was not angered by the great emperor's slander. He only replied indifferently. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity pursed his lips and snorted. I did. Weren't you there too, Golden Cicada? But who does Shakyamuni think he is? He actually dares to ask me to convert to Buddhism? How laughable. What sort of person was this emperor? To think that he would want this emperor to become a Buddha. What a joke. That Shakyamuni is quite interesting. He actually wants to take me as his disciple. Is he even worthy? Arrogant. He looked down on everything. Even if it was Shakyamuni got him a Buddha, he was just a little monk to him. Golden Cicada's expression was a little ugly when he slandered his master like that, but he did not shed all pretense of cordiality to explain himself. The Buddha is omnipotent. He naturally has his reasons for wanting you to convert to Buddhism. Then, this emperor has his own reasons for not wanting to go to your Buddha region. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity snorted disdainfully and curled his lips in a condescending manner. Don't try to get close to me. Aren't you here to demand an explanation for your disciple? This emperor is standing right here. Show me what you're going to do. Buzz. The huge blue sword engraved with dragon patterns on the ground buzzed softly, and wisps of pressure were released from the blade, turning the surrounding dozens of meters into a vacuum magnetic field. The great enemy of the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity stood proudly in the great hall. His eyes shone like stars, resplendent and dazzling. He looked down at the immortals in the hall with a domineering aura. Outside the hall, the heavenly soldiers raised their arms and shouted loudly. Their thunderous roars were deafening. In particular, the monstrous battle intent they had coalesced into made all the immortals in the hall shudder in fear. These civil officials were not good at fighting, and they had never experienced such a situation before. Some of the immortals began to tremble, their eyelids twitching uncontrollably. Amitabha, the great emperor's evil aura, is too strong. Golden Cicada, who stood across from him, sighed calmly. Such evil aura will destroy the great emperor's foundation sooner or later. There's a saying in Buddhism, the sea of bitterness knows no bounds. Repent, and you'll be saved. Lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. Your Majesty, if you let go of your obsessions and follow me back to the Buddhist region to see Buddha, you'll still have a chance to turn things around. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity sneered. Then his expression darkened. His brows brimmed with savagery and displeasure. I'm just sick of you monks nagging. If you want to fight, then fight. If not, then scram. Don't disturb my mood. Your Majesty, you're noisy. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity's expression darkened. He pointed his right index finger forward. Buzz. A wisp of pitch-black light pierced through the surrounding air, shooting straight for Golden Cicada's forehead. Golden Cicada's pupils constricted. He placed his hands in front of his chest, and the image of a golden bell enveloped him. Dong! The bell tolled. This bell chime was like the sound of an ancient bell in the Buddhist domain, deep and distant. The instant the bell tolled, the immortals in the hall felt their ears ringing. They hurriedly shielded their ears with spiritual energy to preserve their hearing. Even so, they were still in a state of tinnitus for the next 15 minutes. The primordial divine bell. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity snorted coldly. He waved his right hand, blocking the bell from ringing. You're still saying it wasn't that old monk Shakyamuni who sent you? The Buddhist region's supreme treasure is in your hands. What else can you say? Buddha instructed me to take you to the Buddhist region for a chat. Golden Cicada's hands remained in front of his chest as he replied, dispersing the golden bell. What a joke. What I want is this supreme position. I don't have the time to go to your Buddhist region. If that old monk wants to see me, tell him to come see me personally, snorted the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity. Buddha needs to guard the Buddhist region. I hope your majesty can understand and come with me. Then forget it. I don't have the time for that. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity narrowed his eyes and snorted. Before he could finish speaking, he saw a golden bell appear above his head. Boom! The golden bell fell, suppressing him within. Your Majesty, the heavenly generals outside the palace trembled. They wanted to enter and help. However, they saw Golden Cicada silently recite scriptures. The golden bell released several waves of spiritual energy, sending the heavenly generals flying. They'd been suppressed. The immortals inside the palace watched in astonishment. The insufferably arrogant heavenly emperor of supreme polarity had been suppressed, just like that. The North Pole Emperor was also stunned. He was well aware of his brother's strength. But even more than that, he was afraid of the Buddhist region. Golden Cicada wasn't skilled in battle, but he'd managed to suppress the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity with just a single golden bell. Amipa, my apologies. At the same time, Golden Cicada bowed deeply to the golden bell, then turned to the North Pole Emperor. I'll take the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity back to the Buddhist region. The Buddha said that there's an expert behind the demons. I hope the North Pole Emperor can help the other two realms as soon as possible. And my disciple, I'll have to trouble your majesty. Of course. I just don't know how the Buddha intends to deal with my brother. The Buddha has his own plans. There's no need for your majesty to worry. Golden Cicada nodded at the North Pole Emperor, then reached out to the golden bell. Then this humble monk will return. The golden bell, covering the ground, couldn't be retracted. Golden Cicada knit his brows and turned around, chanting scriptures over and over again. However, no matter how hard he chanted, he couldn't move the golden bell in the slightest. The golden bell on the ground suddenly grew in size. The expressions of the immortals inside the palace shifted. Golden Cicada furrowed his brows and chanted scriptures as well. After the golden bell expanded and expanded countless times, the chanting Golden Cicada coughed up a mouthful of blood. He stared at the golden bell in front of him in astonishment. Boom! Without the restraints of scriptures, the golden bell exploded. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity walked out, his face filled with arrogance. Chapter 9:67. Settle accounts. Boom. The golden bell shattered. The golden fragments shot out and embedded themselves into the walls of the soaring Heaven King Palace. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity stood there, smiling arrogantly. He stared coldly at Jean Chanzi, who was coughing up a mouthful of blood. If Shakyamuni were here, I might be a little afraid. But you want to suppress me? Swoosh. He stretched out his right hand, and an invisible palm of spiritual power instantly grabbed Golden Cicada's neck. Golden Cicada grabbed the front of his neck with both hands, the veins on his forehead bulging, and his entire face flushed red. This emperor originally wanted to obtain this position without shedding a single drop of blood. But you guys are disobedient. Since that's the case, you can go and die. Stop. Boom. With a wave of his hand, he shattered the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity's palm, formed from spiritual energy. The North Pole Emperor descended from his throne with a dark expression. After injecting some spiritual energy in a golden cicada, he took a few steps forward. 5 meters. When he was 5 meters away from the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity, he stopped. Taiji, you've gone too far. Emperor Zui's expression was so dark that it looked like it was about to drip water. He stared straight ahead, and the spiritual energy around him caused his clothes to flutter in the wind. In the face of Emperor Zui's wrath, the atmosphere in the entire hall became heavy and solemn. You're angry. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity laughed nonchalantly, then looked at the North Pole emperor indifferently. Could it be that you want to make a move on me? Your elder brother? My younger brother. Don't you forget who taught you how to fight back then? This emperor also doesn't wish for us two brothers to fight, but, Taiji, you're really going a little too far. The North Pole Emperor glanced at him indifferently, then walked out of the palace, brushing past the heavenly emperor of supreme polarity. I'll wait for you outside. If you win, this position will be yours. If you lose, then scram back to your nest. Emperor Wei didn't waste any more words as he emerged from the palace with a dark expression. The heavenly emperor of supreme polarity hesitated for a long time. Finally, he cocked his head and smiled calmly. A fierce light flashed through his eyes. What a disobedient little brother. What do you mean? Lei Hu glared at Gu Li and roared. They're in a difficult situation. Are you trying to say that the 3 holy lands are also being besieged by your demon race? You can't boast like that. The people here are already all your forces. You want to besiege the 3 holy lands? You're just daydreaming. Even though the Beast region was protected by a grand formation, they didn't dare call themselves a holy land. Since the 3 holy lands were able to become holy lands, they naturally had their own foundations. There was no hope of entering the Holy Land by attacking from the outside. The only possibility was to attack from the inside. From the inside, internal attack. Inexplicably, Lei Hu suddenly recalled the Beast region's Flying Serpent clan's betrayal. Could it be that someone from the 3 Holy Lands was colluding with the demons? However, the structure of the Holy Land was completely different from that of the Beast region. If they wanted to incite their rebellion, that was unlikely. It seems like clan leader Lei Hu has also thought of something. Guli smiled playfully. Do you think it's impossible for any of them to betray you? But you've overlooked the greed and desires of human nature? At that moment, Yi Zichen's expression darkened. When Guli saw this, he chuckled. It seems our emperor Yi already knows what's going on. The 4 Sacred Beast clan heads glanced at him and saw Yi Zichen give them a cryptic nod. Guli, I might have said this to you more than once, but it really was my mistake not to kill you right away. Just now, Yi Zichen had taken a look at his phone. The group was flooded with messages, and many pictures were also uploaded to the group. Although they were brief, he understood that the 3 holy lands were in trouble. Emperor Yi, your words are truly disappointing. Don't forget, we're both members of the Gu family. If we're to be honest, we're brothers. Gu Li shook his head, his heart pained. Say, if you and I join hands, wouldn't this world be ours? But you always want to stand on the opposite side of me and fight each other. If the elders of the clan found out, how heartbroken would they be? People of different paths can't make plans together, snorted Yi Zichen. What a pity. In truth, I really wanted to join hands with Brother Yi. Gu Li sighed despondently, his fingers digging into his ears. Unfortunately, Brother Yi cares about the world. You're different from a nobody like me. But speaking of which, it's this kind of righteous and awe-inspiring look of yours that I hate. As soon as he said this, Gu Li's expression turned incomparably gloomy. Who do you think you are? All you care about is saving the world. You must have read too many wuxia stories to have this sort of mindset, right? But what a pity. History is always written by the victors. Once we wipe you all out, who knows? Who knows? You might leave behind a legacy worthy of eternal disdain. Let's give it a try. Yi Zichen's tone was especially calm. He looked at him indifferently, his eyes devoid of any emotion. Why are you talking so much nonsense with him? It's a waste of breath, said Lei Hu. A puny demon really thinks he could defy the heavens and rule the world? Clan head Lei, whose words are tyrannical, but I'm just reminding you out of goodwill that the flying serpent clan head. Just let him come, snorted Lei, who disdainfully. Back then, I dared kill his son right in front of him. He didn't even dare let out a fart. If he dares come, I'll reunite the father and son. Clan head Lei, don't be so angry. I was just reminding you out of goodwill. Sensing Lei Hu's fury, Guli took a few steps back and laughed. In truth, I've said so much to you because I wanted to enlist you. But from the looks of it, you're not going to succeed, are you? No one said anything, but their gazes gave Guli their answer. Enlist him. Given the enmity between them, was there even a chance of enlisting him? Either you die, or I perish. Fine, I've done all I could and said all I could. Since you don't appreciate my kindness, there's nothing I can do about it. Cut the crap. If you can fight, don't make a fuss, snorted Lei Hu. I really hope clan head Lei Hu can say the same thing in the future. In truth, he'd said so much mainly because of Su Yun's problem. He didn't know what tricks Su Yun had up his sleeve, but he was afraid. Even with his temperament, he couldn't quite see through Su Yun. He sighed helplessly, then retreated to the front of the army. Yi Zichen and the others followed suit. Negotiations had broken down. All they could do was fight. Kill. Accompanied by an angry roar, the two sides collided into each other. New enmity. Old enmity. Chapter 968. Little Lioli's man-eating flower kill. In the blink of an eye, blood flowed like a river outside Dragon City. The entire void reeked of blood, and even the bright clouds were stained with the color of blood. Eat my staff. In the beast region, the Ahogatop Go Yuzhan's head swept through a horde of blood zombies with a wooden staff in hand. At this moment, he no longer had his usual devouring appearance. His sword-like brows were tightly knitted together, and his face was filled with a rarely seen seriousness. Get lost. The staff in his hand extended and pierced through the row of blood zombies. Are you afraid now? A bunch of trash. Just as he was about to put his hands on his waist and pretend to be an egg, he saw that the area he had cleared out with great difficulty was now filled with blood-colored zombies dripping mucus. A foul stench emanated from their mouths. Go Yuzhan pinched his nose and furrowed his brows. Damn, don't these guys know how to brush their teeth? I'm going to die from the stench. Swish, swish, swish. With a few somersaults, he escaped from the encirclement of the blood zombies. Not long after, he landed in front of a girl wearing a white dress that had not been stained with a single drop of blood. The girl held a pile of pills in her hands, and from time to time, she would throw one into her mouth. Little Lioli was the only one who didn't forget to eat at this time. Your appetite is really good. You can even eat this. Go Yuzhan's eyes widened as he looked at the girl beside him. The girl blinked her eyes in confusion. Why can't I? You awesome. He couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. There were corpses all around, and the ground was covered in blood. Not to mention eating, most people would be lucky if they didn't vomit in this place. Go Yuzhan considered himself a foodie and had never submitted to anyone. But now, he was a little impressed by Lioli. I used up a lot of energy just now. Give me some of your pills. Without any explanation, Go Yuzhan grabbed Lori's hand, dropping a few pills on the ground as he did so. Hey, what right do you have to steal my candy? Seeing that the amount of jelly beans in her hand had decreased, Xiao Lioli stomped her feet anxiously. These were all her treasures. Yi Zichen hadn't replenished her stock in a long time. Don't be so stingy. I just used up a lot of energy. I need to eat some medicinal pills to recover. When the time comes, I'll get boss to pay you back. Double, how about that? Go Yuzhan tossed the pill into his mouth as he spoke. Little Lioli pondered for a moment and felt that it was a good deal. She nodded. All right, when the time comes, you must pay me back double. No problem. Go Yuzhan made an okay gesture. Xiao Lioli pouted as she recalled the few candies that had fallen onto the ground earlier. She was about to pick them up, wipe them, and eat them, but just as she was about to pick them up, Go Yuzhan shouted as a drop of mucus landed on her pill. Little girl, we've been surrounded by these big brothers. In front of them, there were already blood zombies surrounding them. There were at least a few hundred of them. Less than half a step away from Xiao Yuli was a blood zombie. Its scarlet eyes glared at her, its gaping maw dripping mucus as it breathed at her. Hey, why it stinks? Go Yuzhan pinched his nose and cursed. Little girl. No matter how much he shouted, Xiao Yuli didn't react in the slightest. No way. She's scared out of her wits. Go Yuzhan was speechless. He just recovered a bit of his spiritual energy, so he forced himself to his feet. However, at that moment, little Lioli, who'd been staring at the pill on the ground, moved. You ruined my jelly beans. The earth-shattering roar was like a lion's roar. The adorable little Lori gritted her teeth and stood up. She pointed at the blood zombie in front of her, her fingers almost touching the zombie's nose. It's you, it's you, it's you. Crash. The ground around little Lioli's feet suddenly rippled. When Go Yuzhan saw this, there were also earthly zombies. Careful. Go Yuzhan roared at little Lioli and swung his cudgel. However, before he could swing his cudgel down, he saw 4 man-eating flowers emerge from the ground, their mouths wide open. Pooh! The man-eating flowers opened their mouths wide and swallowed the 4 zombies in an instant, leaving no bones or blood behind. Eat them all for me. The man-eating flowers seemed to understand little Lioli's words. In the blink of an eye, they devoured the surrounding blood zombies' fists. Go Yuzhan stared at the surrounding blood zombies being devoured by the man-eating flowers. Soon after, he saw the man-eating flower, which had swallowed all the zombies, turn its head towards him. His scalp went numb. Little girl, eat slowly. 10 times. I'll get boss to return you 10 times the amount of the pill. Also, these are the leftovers. I'm returning them to you. All right, I'm leaving now. After stuffing the pill into little Lioli's hands, Go Yuzhan ran off. Oh my god, this girl was too ruthless. Little Lioli watched in bewilderment as Go Yuzhan ran off. However, when she remembered that he'd promised to return her 10 times the amount, her face lit up with delight. She took out a pill, popped it in her mouth, and smiled sweetly. Sword shakes the 8 desolates. Little Lioli and the others were fighting fiercely, but Yi Zichen and Black Dragon had no choice but to go even further. Hundreds of beams of sword energy streaked through the sky. Ding, ding, ding. The enormous sword seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, but in Black Dragon's hands, it was incredibly nimble. He deflected all the sword energy, and with a flash of sword light, the lightning serpent split in half. However, this wasn't the end. A piercing phoenix cry rang out above his head. A phoenix bathed in true fire pecked viciously at him. Humph! Black Dragon, who deflected the sword energy, raised his sword high into the air and collided with the phoenix. Scorching flames splashed everywhere, but not so much as a scratch was left on his blade. Next, he sneered at Yi Zichen and Zhuge Hong, beckoning them with his finger. That's all you got? You'd best surrender. At that moment, a mocking laugh echoed through the sky. Not too far away, Guli stood with his hands on his hips, grinning disdainfully. Lehu stood across from him, panting heavily. He couldn't be blamed for this. He and Black Dragon were fighting Yi Zichen and the 4 Sacred Beast clan heads. After exchanging over 100 blows, they still weren't at a disadvantage. In fact, they seemed to have the upper hand. Boom! At this moment, a mountain suddenly fell from the top of his head. He arched his brows, then calmly dodged the mountain. Then, with a backhand punch, he smashed the mountain into pieces. Oomph. Off in the distance, Tu Bu clutched his chest and snorted. Lehu hurriedly sent a stream of spiritual energy into his body. Old turtle. Scram, your whole family are old turtles. Tu Bu rolled his eyes at Lehu, then used his strength to stand upright. Tiger Lei, this guy's a bit hard to deal with. You don't need to tell me that, snorted Lehu. Lehu snorted at him, only to hear Gu Li's mocking laughter. Hey, are you okay? How about I go easy on you with just one hand? Screw you, swore Lehu. The bad-tempered Lehu cursed. Then he crawled to the ground, transforming into an awe-inspiring, winged, gigantic white tiger. Chapter 969. White Tiger roars his true form. When White Tiger returned to his true form, Guli watched him with interest. White Tiger's true form caught Yi Zichen's attention as well. His eyes were drooping, his forehead was white, and his body was covered in alternating black and white patterns. His chest, abdomen, and limbs were covered in patches of white fur. His black and white fur, as thick as leather, draped over his shoulders. His limbs were thick and muscular, and his claws protruded from his toes. His tail was thick and long, covered in black rings. It swayed back and forth like a steel whip. Long whiskers sprouted from his mouth. His eyes were as large as copper bells, and wisps of white smoke seeped out of his nostrils. Roar! The tiger's roar shook the mountains. Its resonant roar formed an air cannon in the sky. The silver air cannon, accompanied by a cyclone, shot towards Gu Li. Go Yuzhan, who'd just blown away the surrounding blood zombies with his staff, noticed the incoming attack. He froze, then rubbed his eyes repeatedly. Damn, a Raisingan? At the same time, Gu Li smiled calmly when he saw the incoming attack. He reached out with his right hand. Gu Li's palm instantly transformed into the size of a prayer mat. He caught the incoming attack in his palm. Boom! The air cannon exploded. The raging cyclone blew away the clouds in the sky. The cyclone in Gu Li's hand twisted and turned, and a few drops of purple blood dripped from his palm. Finally, this is getting interesting. Gu Li retracted his hand, spread it, and smiled. In the blink of an eye, his hand, which had been shredded by the air cannon, emitted a puff of white smoke, then returned to normal. Tiger. The heads of the other 3 Sacred Beast clans were stunned as well. Returning to his true form? It seemed Lei Hu had really pushed him too far. When he looked at Lei Hu's true form, his gaze was solemn. However, the crest on his forehead and his proud figure made him feel as if he were looking down on all creation. The white tiger, holy beast. He was the true king of the beasts. His might was unassailable. I never would have guessed I'd get the chance to see the white tiger's true form. Now that he'd fully recovered, Gu Li let his hands fall to his sides and smiled calmly. Lei Hu stared intently at him, then took a step forward and let out a low, muffled roar. You won't feel lucky in a moment. Boom! Before he finished speaking, the black and white stripes on the white tiger's back suddenly flashed with a halo. Bolts of lightning flashed around him, and lightning snakes coiled around him, flicking their tongues. A glint flashed across his eyes. His bright eyes suddenly transformed into a cat's eyes, and his tiger whiskers grew longer than before. Swoosh! About 10 meters above his head, a cyclone appeared. The cyclone spun rapidly, and lightning flashed around it. Thunder and lightning gathered. Not long after, the cyclone transformed into a ball of light formed from lightning. Tiger Lei. Yu was stunned. They were far too familiar with each other, so he naturally knew what Lei Hu was doing. The profound meaning of the white tiger was as powerful as a thunderbolt. White Tiger had always been good at fighting, and Vigorous Thunderbolt was the most lethal of his combat skills. However, this battle skill was definitely a battle skill that could kill 1,000 enemies while sacrificing 800 of oneself. He actually used his battle skill at this time. He wanted to use this move to decide the outcome of the battle. Has it really come to this? The other Sacred Beast clan heads all muttered to themselves. The battle had only just begun, but when they thought about it, they couldn't help but approve of his actions. If they didn't take the risk, they might not even have a chance of winning. Black Dragon and Gu Li were truly too strong. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The ball of lightning above Lei Hu's head continued to expand. It was like a second sun, bathing the entire world in a layer of silver light. Everyone present could feel the oppressive pressure emanating from the ball of lightning above their heads. But Gu Li laughed. He didn't even attempt to defend himself. He simply smiled calmly and stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Lei Hu couldn't help but be astonished by this display, but he quickly suppressed his curiosity. No matter what tricks Gu Li had up his sleeve, the moment he transformed into his true form and prepared to use this battle skill, he had no way out. Rumble. The ball of lightning absorbed the falling lightning. By now, it was 100 meters wide. The lightning around it could no longer be called snakes. Instead, they resembled massive pythons coiled around the ball of lightning. their eyes glinting with ferocity. Umph! Suddenly, White Tiger, hovering proudly in the sky, let out a muffled groan. He'd reached his limit. The ball of light above his head was already the limit of his control. If he condensed any more, he'd likely suffer a backlash from the lightning. Condense! He roared inwardly. However, at that moment, he suddenly sensed a cold, sinister aura appear behind him. Whack! His iron whip-like tail swept out. Tung In, the head of the Flying Serpent clan, appeared behind him. His right hand, wreathed in green energy, grabbed Leihu's tail and grinned viciously. Tung In, roared Leihu. However, he didn't have the energy to deal with him. Tiger Lei, to think you'd have such a day. Tung In laughed sinisterly, the green energy in his hand growing heavier. Then, Leihu's eyes began to roar. His eyes were filled with towering rage. Tung In, you're courting death. Umph, I really am courting death. The day you killed my son, I didn't want to live anymore. Tung In cocked his head to the side, his eyes brimming with undisguisable madness. He lowered his hand, still wreathed in green energy, and saw that Fugitor's tail had already been cleanly corroded. His flesh was exposed, but the green energy was still eating away at his tail. Then I'll fulfill your wish. A brutal roar erupted from Leihu's mouth. He swung his tail with the force of 1,000 caddies, but a large pool of blood flowed from his mouth. The lightning ball above his head also showed signs of collapsing. Leihu, 2BU was the first to rush over, but halfway there, Guli blocked his way. Brother Tung In is settling a personal grudge. You can't go over. Bang! Guli punched out, and a stone wall instantly appeared in front of 2BU. The stone wall collapsed, and he hurriedly retreated. OL Lei, Zhuge Hong, Xiaohua, and Yi Zichen hurried over to help as well. However, Black Dragon, the tiger in their way, was locked in a deadly tangle. There was no way to escape. Brother Tung In, I'll leave Leihu to you. As for the others, leave them to us. Black Dragon and Guli laughed calmly. Tung In nodded at them, then turned his sinister gaze to Leihu, who was currently coughing up mouthfuls of blood and doing his best to stabilize his profound mysteries. I've waited so long for this day, said Guli and Black Dragon. As soon as he finished speaking, snakeskin appeared on his body. An instant later, a 300-meter-long, winged serpent rose into the air. Hiss! Chapter 970. Chapter 970. White Tiger's death fangs sank into his neck. Even though the White Tiger's fur was as hard as steel, it was helpless against Tung Yin's fangs. Tung Yin's fangs contained deadly poison. The instant the fangs sank into his neck, the White Tiger's body twisted violently, its steel whip-like tail lashing at Tung Yin's body. Slap, slap, slap. Flesh split open. Tung Yin was prepared to take his opponent down with him. He didn't care how the White Tiger's tail lashed at him. It was as if he was stuck in the White Tiger's neck, unable to move. Tung Yin, you're courting death. Leihu stopped stabilizing his profound mysteries. Tung Yin's venom had already numbed his nerves. If he allowed the venom to spread, he would surely die. Boom! His front claws viciously clawed at Tung Yin's body. In the blink of an eye, the two of them fell from the clouds into the valley. The tiger's jaws opened wide and bit down on Tung Yin's neck. Even though they were the chiefs of the 10 great divine beasts, they could only use their beastly instincts. Sharp claws, fangs, these were their most instinctive weapons. Slap! The tiger's claws viciously stomped on Tung Yin's tail, and its front claws repeatedly slapped at his head. Ayo! The tiger let out a long roar. Tung Yin loosened his jaws. However, in the blink of an eye, his thick, python-like tail coiled around Leihu. His mouth, which had only just loosened, bit down again. Tearing, tearing. Leihu's claws dug a bloody hole in Tung Yin's abdomen. Blood gushed out. Puke. Blood and flesh spat out of Leihu's mouth. In terms of wretchedness, Tung Yin was definitely in a worse state. However, as the venom continued to grow in his body, Leihu's consciousness gradually grew hazy. Blood flowed uncontrollably from the bite between his thumb and index finger, and there were even uncontrollable lightning bolts circling around his body. The two divine beasts fiercely clashed in the valley, shattering mountains and sending rubble flying everywhere. Die! Lehu roared. Boom! The air cannon viciously blasted Tung Yin's head, shattering his neck. The two halves of Tung Yin's snake tail powerlessly loosened its grip on Lehu. However, his fangs remained embedded in Lehu's neck. Bang! Lehu, who had been standing in the valley, suddenly slumped to the ground. His mighty and domineering body gradually reverted to human form. He pulled Tung Yin's head off his neck and pulled out his fangs. Black blood continuously flowed out from his neck, and he powerlessly opened his eyes as he leaned against Tung Yin's corpse. Speechless, many memories of the past suddenly appeared in his mind, but soon after, his memory was forever fixed on Zhuge Hong's back. In this life, he had never dared to say those words out loud. Tiger Lei, you really are a good-for-nothing. The sphere of light above the clouds broke free as well. Bolts of lightning shot out in all directions. Their target was Lehu, who was sitting paralyzed in the canyon. Boom! A dazzling white light soared into the sky from within the canyon. The surrounding cliffs collapsed under the impact of the lightning tiger, burying it deep within. Sitting within the White Tiger clan, the man with a blade scar on his face suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. Shortly after, he closed his eyes. Old Lei, boom! Yi Zichen and the others, who were tangling with Gu Li and Black Dragon, also saw the white light. Then they saw the entire valley collapse. Tiger Lei, the three Sacred Beast clan heads roared, their eyes bloodshot. They died together. What a pity, Brother Tung Yin. But that's fine too. At least we fulfilled Brother Tung Yin's wish. Black Dragon shook his head and sighed. His expression was somewhat sorrowful. Nearby, Gu Li pursed his lips into a smile and said, Your Excellency Black Dragon, your words are too fake. Right now, you're definitely thinking that Tung Yin was still of some use. At the very least, he died together with the White Tiger, right? What a joke. So what if the White Tiger was still alive? He deserved to die. If he had been my mount, how could he have ended up like this? Black Dragon snorted disdainfully, but he didn't say all this through voice transmission. The other three Sacred Beast clan heads heard him. They were already grieving over the White Tiger's death. When they looked at Black Dragon, their eyes instantly turned bloodshot. Yi Zichen felt the same way. Although he hadn't known Lehu for very long, he had a good impression of the White Tiger's candid personality. However, Yi Zichen never would have guessed that he would die. Clang! A piercing phoenix cry tore through the air. A strange, flaming bird, several hundred feet long, appeared in the sky. A vermilion bird. This was the vermilion bird's true form. Roar! The azure dragon roared. Almost the instant Zhuge Hong transformed in her true form, Xiahua transformed into a roaring azure dragon. Below them was the black tortoise with the head of a snake and the body of a turtle. The azure dragon of the east, the vermilion bird of the south, the black tortoise of the north. The divine beasts landed in their respective positions. Towering rage filled the sky. You've all transformed into your true forms. Wouldn't it have been better if you'd done this earlier? Perhaps that old friend of yours wouldn't have met such a fate. Gu Li smiled frivolously as he looked at the divine beasts in their true forms. However, he intentionally mentioned the White Tiger in order to rub salt into their wounds. Soon after, he raised his brows at the Black Dragon beside him and said, Your Excellency Black Dragon, what do you think? It seems these divine beasts want to avenge their old friend. Furthermore, they've all transformed into their true forms. It's truly frightening. I'm just afraid they don't have the ability, laughed Black Dragon arrogantly. Let's just send them off to meet the White Tiger. However, you'd best leave that dragon for me. It's not bad to use it as a mount. No problem. Let's capture it alive. As they spoke, it was as if the divine beasts didn't exist. The divine beast clan heads paid them no heed. What greeted them was a ball of scorching fire. He raised his sword. Just like before, Black Dragon swept aside the flames. However, this time, the flames didn't dissipate. Instead, as soon as they touched his sword, They spread out in every direction. In the blink of an eye, raging flames enveloped Black Dragon and Ghoulie. The entire sky transformed into a sea of flames. Open. A ray of sword light shot out from the sea of flames, slicing the entire sea of flames into two. The ray of sword light headed straight for the vermilion bird. Just as the sword chi was about to land on the vermilion bird, the black tortoise blocked its path. Roar! The azure dragon of the east attacked at practically the same time. Its tail lashed out at the sea of flames, but someone grabbed it firmly. They walked out of the sea of flames. Ghoulie, his entire body charred to a crisp, walked out of the flames, clutching the azure dragon's tail. He trembled. As he did so, his charred skin peeled off. Then, like a snake shedding its skin, Ghoulie grew a new layer of skin beneath his charred skin. His hand continued to grip Xia Hua's tail, no matter how Xia Hua struggled. Chapter 9:71. She shed her skin. She shed her skin. She was reborn. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Ghoulie smiled playfully, but his expression was unsightly. He'd almost been roasted alive. Who would be happy to see that? Impossible. Zhuge Hong, who had reverted to her original form, spat out a mantra. Her pupils were clearly trembling as she shifted her gaze towards the sea of flames. Only Ghoulie had come out alive. Didn't that mean, "Your Excellency, Black Dragon, I caught the mount you wanted for you"? At that moment, Ghoulie chuckled at the sea of flames. Then he saw a man, still blazing with flames, walk out of the flames, his expression gloomy. Black Dragon. He'd emerged from the sea of flames as well. "Be gentle. Don't hurt him," said Black Dragon softly. He was in much better shape than Ghoulie had been when he'd first emerged. No matter what, his strength and experience were clear for all to see. The instant he saw the flames spread, he'd erected a defensive barrier around him. Even so, there were still many burns on his body. However, to Zhuge Hong, it was despair, her natal true flame. Now that Lei Hu had died, her heart was burning with fury. She had almost used the strongest flame that she could summon. But that was all. Xia Hua, in his true form as an azure dragon, was like a toy in Ghoulie's hands. So what was left behind was despair. The head of the clan represented the peak of the sacred beast race's power. She couldn't say for sure who was the strongest, but at the very least, the head of the clan had to be one of the top experts of the race. However, when they reverted to their true forms and used their natal energy, the result was the same. What was left behind if not despair? Roar! The azure dragon let out a long roar. This roar was mixed with anger, but most of it was pain. The dragon's body trembled violently, but its mountain-shattering strength didn't so much as tremble when it reached Ghoulie's hand. "Your Excellency, Black Dragon, that mount of yours is rather disobedient." A faint smile tugged at Ghoulie's lips. Nearby, Black Dragon pursed his lips and snorted. "Just tame it." Boom! Boundless spiritual energy leaked out from Black Dragon's body. His hands were covered in Black Dragon scales, and his arms were as thick as an ancient god's. He grabbed the dragon's body with both arms and forcefully restrained it. Howl! Xia Hua howled in pain. Clang! The vermilion bird cried out, and its flaming wings flapped, forming countless flames in the air. The raging flames surged forward, but Ghoulie loosened his grip on Xia Hua. His right arm wriggled and transformed into an enormous hand that blotted out the sky. He crushed all the flames in his palm. "We can't ruin Lord Black Dragon's plans." Just as he narrowed his eyes and snorted, his eyebrows suddenly rose. His gaze changed. Oh no! As soon as he finished speaking, he looked in Black Dragon's direction and saw Yi Zichen emerge from the distorted space, blood-red blade in hand. Whoosh! The blood-colored sword light flashed, and the scales on Hei Long's arm cracked. A trickle of blood flowed down his arm. In pain, the Black Dragon loosened its grip, and Xia Hua took the opportunity to struggle free. "You're seeking death." When he noticed Yi Zichen's blood-red blade, Black Dragon roared, his eyes bloodshot. He swung his enormous arm, several hundred feet long, at Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen's pupils constricted as he attacked. The blood-red blade was in front of his chest. He had nowhere to run. All he could do was take it head on. He calmed his mind and gathered spiritual energy into the blade. Bang! The blood blade in front of his chest shattered the moment it came into contact with the black dragon's arm. After shattering the blade, Black Dragon's muscular arm slammed into his chest. The huge force of the arm directly smashed him into the cliff in the distance. Cough! Cough! After falling off the cliff, Yi Zichen clutched his chest and coughed violently. His internal organs had all been shaken out of place, and many of his meridians were severed. Blood spurted uncontrollably from his mouth. I wanted to deal with you later, but how dare you ruin my plans? Black Dragon roared, his expression sinister. At the same time, his expression darkened, and he smiled viciously at Yi Zichen. Die! Yi Zichen felt the sky above him suddenly darken, then saw an enormous hand swatting down at him. Emperor Yi, Tu Biyu, Xia Hua, and Zhuge Hong roared in unison. Before the battle, they'd already said they could die in this battle, but Yi Zichen absolutely couldn't. At practically the same time, the three Sacred Beast clan heads dashed towards Yi Zichen. However, they couldn't keep up with Black Dragon's speed. Dong! The enormous hand fell. Yi Zichen looked up, his eyes filled with unwillingness as he watched it descend. Emperor Yi, the Sacred Beast clan heads roared one after another. By now, it was as if they could already imagine Yi Zichen's fate. Only Black Dragon, who just landed, knit his brows deeply. Emperor Yi had actually died. The Sacred Beast clan heads' eyes were bloodshot. Disregarding their lifespans, they unleashed their profound battle techniques. Instantly, light crisscrossed through the sky. Even Black Dragon had no choice but to dodge in the face of such reckless attacks. He hurriedly retracted his arm and focused on dealing with the clan heads' profound techniques. Old Turtle, move those boulders away. Azure Dragon roared. Just now, Black Dragon's attack had practically shattered half the mountain. They couldn't see Yi Zichen at all. If he was alive, they wanted to see him. If he was dead, they wanted to see his corpse. Mountain moving, mountain splitting. The patriarch of the Black Tortoise clan, Tu Biyu, also shouted. Rays of light appeared around his body, and similar lights appeared on the boulders scattered on the ground. The boulders rose into the air and hovered in midair. No wonder. Black Dragon, who just barely managed to block the Sacred Beast's profound mysteries, grimaced. At the same time, the Sacred Beast head saw a girl kneeling half a meter away from Yi Zichen. The girl's hand was pressed against his chest, and a barrier was erected around them. Cough! Yi Zichen's eyes were tightly shut. He coughed violently, then opened his eyes and looked around. I didn't die? How is this possible? In his previous state, he couldn't even circulate his spiritual energy. How could he have survived Black Dragon's furious attack? Why didn't you die? What do you think? Just as Yi Zichen was in a daze, a low, angry voice reached his ears. At that moment, Yi Zichen noticed the woman in front of him, but before he could speak, he heard Black Dragon roar. Chapter 972. Chapter 972. I am the law, Lin Ru. How did you? As soon as Black Dragon finished speaking, Yi Zichen knit his brows in shock. The person standing before him was none other than the master of the laws of the three realms, Lin Ru. You should know that the masters of the laws transcended all mortal affairs. They were the law. They were the shackles that bound the three realms, and their only mission was to ensure that the law wasn't challenged. They had no right to interfere with anything else. If they interfered, they'd be overstepping their authority. Yi Zichen hadn't known before, which was why he'd asked Lin Ru to help them fight the demons. However, after Lin Ru's explanation, he hadn't brought it up again. Why? Why did she want to appear here? Hurry up and get out of here. Did you forget what you told me? Yi Zichen was worried about Lin Ru's safety, so he lifted her hand away from his chest. He shouted repeatedly, Let's go. Take advantage of the fact that your people haven't discovered us yet. Hurry up and leave. However, Lin Ru, who he'd pushed away, walked back to him without a word. She frowned and tapped him. Yi Zichen realized that he couldn't move. Pure spiritual energy flowed from his heart to all the meridians in his body, and his damaged meridians gradually healed under the nourishment of this spiritual energy. Linru, stop yelling. Don't you know how annoyed I am? Linru looked up and shouted at him, then withdrew her hand from his chest. Try to circulate your spiritual energy. Your wounds should be more or less healed. Linru. Yi Zichen didn't pay any attention to his own injuries. Instead, he continued to call out his name. He knew that Linru understood what he wanted to say. I can do whatever I want. It's just a lousy master of the laws. At most, I'll just give up. I'm used to freedom in the modern realm. No one can control me in the modern realm, but do you think they can control me here? Linru snorted. Yi Zichen couldn't help but knit his brows. But this isn't the modern realm. Didn't you tell me how serious it is for the masters of the laws to interfere? Didn't you say? Enough. Linru impatiently interrupted Yi Zichen. She pursed her lips, turned around, and spoke with her back to him. I know. Then why did you— I said I know, shouted Linru, her back to Yi Zichen. She was so worked up that Yi Zichen couldn't speak. After a while, she spoke again, this time in a low voice. There's no way for me to stop now. They already know. Yi Zichen, who sat on the ground, froze. He looked at Linru's back, his lips trembling. Then run. Linru had previously told him that if the masters of the laws rashly interfered, they'd be captured by the organization and punished by divine punishment. Her so-called divine punishment wasn't as simple as the divine punishment Yi Zichen and the others had to undergo. He would die. How? All things exist within the laws. As the master of the laws, I'm bound by the laws as well. The laws are everywhere. Even if I run, can I escape from the laws? Linru chuckled without turning her head. But it's a good thing that I broke that broken Rui scepter, so it shouldn't be too fast for them to find me. What? Yi Zichen was shocked. That's enough. Don't make such a big fuss. Since it's already come to this, I might as well throw caution to the wind. Even if they've already sensed that I broke the laws, it'll take them some time to catch me. At the very least, before that happens, I should try to help you deal with your current predicament. As her voice faded, Linru took a step forward. Don't think I'm trying to help you. I just don't want to see Susu cry so miserably. I don't want to see her so worried for you. Be nice to Susu, got it? Tongue. The tip of Linru's foot lightly touched the ground, stepping on a layer of clouds in the void. Linru. Bang. Yi Zichen rose to his feet to stop her, but he slammed into the seal Linru had left behind. He could only keep hammering the restriction with his fists as he kept roaring inside. Come back. Don't do anything rash. Come back. Whoosh. Whoosh. At the same time, the Sacred Beast clan heads landed by Yi Zichen's side. To tell the truth, when they learned that the Master of the Laws had intervened, a spark of hope ignited in their despairing hearts. In particular, Yi Zichen wasn't injured. This was even better news for them. Emperor Yi, thank you for just now. Xiahua returned to human form and nodded gratefully at Yi Zichen. If Yi Zichen hadn't intervened, he might still be trapped. I never would have guessed Emperor Yi knew the Master of the Laws. Tu Bu arched his brows, then his expression darkened. If the Master of the Laws had intervened earlier, then perhaps Tiger Lightning wouldn't have. As he spoke, everyone's expression darkened once more. Meanwhile, Yi Zichen, who'd been trapped by Linru, stared at her back and gnashed his teeth. Don't worry about me. Hurry up and help Linru. She absolutely can't be harmed. The Sacred Beast clan heads understood Linru's importance. As soon as Yi Zichen finished speaking, they all took to the air and transformed into their true forms. Yi Zichen stared intently at the sky, his fists clenched. There was no turning back. In that case, he just let Linru continue. Linru simply stood there quietly, above the clouds. The black dragon felt the pressure on him increase dramatically. This was the Master of the Laws. She was above them, an existence who controlled the laws of all living beings. Your Excellency, Master of the Laws, you're breaking the rules. Even the haughty black dragon obediently addressed Linru as Your Excellency. Guli descended as well. His expression was grave as he looked at Linru. You're talking about rules with me? Linru snorted disdainfully. I'm a master of the laws of the three realms. Everything in the three realms must obey my rules. I've always been the one setting the rules for others. You're actually talking about rules with me? Are you worthy? I naturally know my status is inferior to yours. But ever since the primordial era, masters of the laws have been forbidden from participating in mortal conflicts. You should know this as well. That's right. So what? Lin Ru's expression was still as disdainful as ever. Since I'm a master of the laws, I make the rules. In the past, there were indeed such rules, but now I feel like there's something wrong with them. I want to change them. Do you have a problem with that? Your Excellency, are you determined to help the three realms? Chapter 974. The benefits of killing the laws up in the clouds. Lin Ru's expression froze. She forced herself to maintain a poker face, but her heart exploded. Shit, something's wrong with this script. Kill me? He's actually going to kill me. Little bastard, he's actually going to kill me. I'm a master of the laws. How dare he say he's going to kill me? Who gave him the courage to say something like that? Did he drink when he came down? Was he out his mind? Was his brain fried? Or did I hear wrongly? Lin Ru felt as though countless versions of herself had appeared in her mind, all of them chattering away. Your courage is commendable. Are you prepared to challenge the laws? Although Lin Ru was panicking inside, she still put on a cold, haughty expression as she looked at the middle-aged man. I wouldn't dare challenge the laws. The middle-aged man chuckled and shook his head. Lin Ru let out a long sigh of relief. I really did miss here. That scared the hell out of me. But can the current you represent the laws? She froze. This time, it wasn't just Lin Ru's expression that froze. Her entire body froze. Could it be that the middle-aged man had already figured it out? Your Highness is nothing more than a paper tiger without a wish. Challenge. Your Highness must be tired of pretending. But so what if your Highness has a wish? As long as they're the laws, they're meant to be broken. Immutable laws can't promote the development of the myriad races. I once had the fortune to kill a master of the laws and gained quite a bit from it. Your Highness will be the second. Who knows? If I kill you, I might even be able to step into the ruler realm. By the time the middle-aged man reached this point, his face was filled with a sinister light. One could even sense his faint excitement. In truth, his talent was average. Born in the upper three realms, he was born a supreme. But after more than 100,000 years, he was still a peak sky supreme. He couldn't take that final step into the saint realm. His inability to break through had caused his mind to become twisted. Tens of thousands of years ago, he was fortunate enough to encounter an injured master of the laws. The master had revealed his identity in hopes of seeking help, but to him, the reason he couldn't break through was because of these so-called laws. Without any hesitation, he'd killed the master of the laws to vent his anger. Who would have thought that after killing the master of the laws, he'd be able to absorb her spiritual energy, cleansing his marrow and breaking through to become a sage? He was now at the peak of the sage plane. He'd stagnated for a long time, wondering when he'd be able to kill the master of the laws again. He'd once tried to challenge the laws, but Wushang's master of the laws wasn't someone he could deal with. Now, his wish had finally come true. Lin Ru didn't have the will of a master of the laws, so she was nothing more than a lamb with the spirit body of the laws. You can give it a try. An indifferent smile represented everything. Moreover, Lin Ru really couldn't say anything else now. Damn it, this old man really wants to kill me. Am I going to die here? Why haven't my captors arrived yet? No, how can I think like that? I haven't dealt with those two yet. Settle your ass. Settle your ass. Do you want to die? Why did he want his life? Could it be that he would have his life if he went back? Wouldn't the old master still be there when they returned? I don't want to talk to that damn old man. Lin Ru's mind began to meet again. She kept talking to herself in her mind as if she was suffering from schizophrenia. Then I will have to offend you. However, the middle-aged man didn't give her much time. As soon as he finished speaking, he launched a collapsing fist through the air. The laws can't be challenged. Disperse. Lin Ru, who was in the middle of a meeting, took some time to recite the words. She was the master of the laws. As soon as she opened her mouth, she sensed that the laws were under her control. Boom! The collapsing fist's spiritual power instantly dissipated. However, The middle-aged man smiled. Oomph, just as I expected, he laughed inwardly. He smiled faintly in his heart. Rules of this level were practically negligible to him. If it were any other master of the laws, he'd be able to suppress them the instant he attacked. Retracting his fist that had dissipated spiritual energy, the middle-aged man turned into a streak of light that continuously revolved around Lin Ru. Step of the heavenly demon. When he saw the middle-aged man's movements, Black Dragon's expression froze. Is this a member of the heavenly demon race? He shouted at Ghoulie. Off in the distance, Ghoulie merely glanced at him coolly and snorted. That's right. Earlier, Black Dragon had tried to kill him. He clearly remembered that. So, with a demon, Your Excellency, why didn't you say so earlier? Black Dragon ignored him. If anyone else had tried to kill him, he would have done the same. But how did you get in touch with a member of the heavenly demon race? That's none of your business, Your Excellency. With that, Ghoulie narrowed his eyes at the distant sacred beast clan heads. Coincidentally, the clan heads were also looking in their direction. We still don't know if that person can deal with the masters of the laws. Before that happens, we should hurry up and get rid of these people. Our fates are in our own hands. Ghoulie snorted sinisterly, then arched his brows. But Your Excellency, Black Dragon, you won't attack me from behind, will you? Of course not. I hope so. Next, Ghoulie didn't hesitate. His arm wriggled and transformed into a giant palm. He swatted it at the sacred beast clan heads. Fuse! Up in the clouds, Lin Ru continued to defend herself. It was obvious that she was at a disadvantage. She clasped her hands together, and a glowing barrier of light appeared around her. Outside the barrier, the middle-aged man moved like a phantom, attacking it relentlessly. Although he wouldn't be able to break it anytime soon, his relentless attacks. Faint cracks began to appear on the barrier. Frigid frost fist. As soon as the middle-aged man spoke, his fist glowed with azure light. Wisps of cold energy flowed out of his fist, then slammed into the barrier. Break! The barrier shattered. Lin Ru couldn't help but swallow a sweet taste in her throat. Your Highness, it seems your life is mine, said the middle-aged man with a sinister smile. The middle-aged man who broke through the barrier smiled sinisterly. His hand turned into a sharp claw as he viciously swiped at Lin Ru's neck. Quake! Lin Ru spoke once more. The air between them rippled with energy, pushing them apart. Even so, a bloody gash appeared on Lin Ru's neck. It was a stark contrast to her snow-white skin. If she hadn't reacted quickly enough, that claw might have gouged a hole in her neck. She bit her lip, her chest heaving violently. Now that she'd lost her scepter, she could use far too few laws. The middle-aged man, who'd been repelled by the shockwave, licked the blood from his hand. His expression was one of satisfaction. Your Highness, don't force yourself. Just be a good boy and be my tonic. He wiped his lips, then swiped at Lin Ru once more. This time, he used all his spiritual power, hoping to kill her in one blow. However, at this moment, a white-haired young man with pitch-black pupils and white eyelashes appeared above their heads. The buttons on his green robe were very asymmetrical. However, it was this slovenly young man who spoke softly. Freeze! Chapter 975. Follow me above the void. The white-haired youth slowly walked down from the sky. With a single word, the world froze. The leaves in the sky stopped falling, and the ripples of the wind by the riverbank ceased. As long as it was in this world, nothing in the world would be able to escape his fixed word. These were the laws of heaven and earth. Nothing could defy them. However, there was one person who could move aside from the youth. Lin Ru. Why are you here? TCH. Why are you always so sloppy? As a master of the laws, she could clearly sense the changes in the laws. She immediately noticed the youth's arrival. However, when she saw him, she didn't show any fear. In fact, she snorted disdainfully at his makeup. MHM. Yes, someone else came, but I stopped him. The youth nodded calmly. From his words and actions, it was clear that he was the serious type. Brushing past Lin Ru, the young man walked straight to the middle-aged man's side. The middle-aged man's hand was still in the shape of a claw, ready to rip Lin Ru to shreds. Gulp. He really wanted to gulp, but the laws wouldn't let him. He wants to kill you? The white-haired youth cocked his head to the side, pointing at the middle-aged man. No, no. The middle-aged man screamed inwardly, but he couldn't make a sound. That's right. This guy really doesn't want to live anymore. He actually wants to kill me. Bye. Hurry up and get revenge for me. Linru angrily put her hands on her hips. Seriously, she'd almost been clawed to death just now. Thankfully, her little brother had arrived in time. The laws aren't to be challenged. Didn't you tell him? The white-haired youth asked. How could I not? I was so flustered just now that I said everything I could. But this guy said that the laws are meant to be broken, and that he can break through after killing us. Hey, isn't that infuriating? He even said that we're the rules, but he's the rules. Fuck, I'm so pissed off. Lin Ru was exaggerating. In any case, she was lying through her teeth without any hesitation. When a middle-aged man heard this, he cried out in his heart, but he couldn't utter a single word. The white-haired youth clearly knew Lin Ru very well, so he only believed half of what she said. However, those who disobeyed the rules must be punished. Those who challenged the rules should be killed. Even when he said those words, the white-haired youth spoke in a calm tone. After that, his hand landed on the middle-aged man's arm and lightly tapped it. He saw that the middle-aged man's arm had been cut off at the spot where he had knocked. A peak saint dares to behave atrociously here. But since you are not under my jurisdiction, I will teach you a lesson. Go back to where you belong. With a wave of his right hand, the middle-aged man disappeared from this world, leaving only his arm behind. Little brother, aren't you being too indecisive? Why don't you just kill him? Linru rolled her eyes in annoyance. Even though the white-haired youth had already crippled that guy's hand, she was still annoyed. It can't be helped. He's not under my jurisdiction. Even if he wanted to kill you, you're still standing here. Even if he really is killed by you, it can't be used as a reason to overstep the authority of other colleagues. As masters of the laws, we must scrupulously abide by our own rules. The white-haired youth's calm reply left Lin Ru's mouth, but she didn't take it seriously. All right, come back with me, said the white-haired youth. Of course I can go back with you, but I still have some business to take care of. As soon as the youth arrived, Lin Ru already knew why he was here. Still, it was better for him to come than the others. They were familiar with each other, so they could still talk. No matter what business you have to come back with me, said the white-haired youth. Can't you give me some face? Lin Ru pouted. Help me out. The white-haired youth furrowed his brows, a rare sight, then nodded. Fine. Hey, you're a good friend, said Lin Ru, giving him a thumbs up, then dragged him over to Black Dragon and Gu Li. They were currently bound by the laws and couldn't move a single muscle. Can you help me deal with these two? Black Dragon and Gu Li's hearts instantly clenched. I can't. The youth shook his head at Lin Ru. Don't cause trouble. I came here for this matter, yet you want to drag me down with you? We masters of the laws can't interfere with mundane matters. You broke the rules, so I can't break them too. Hey you, come back with me, said the white-haired youth. Fine, if you won't help me, then I'll do it myself. I won't drag you down with me. I'll do it myself. Lin Ru pouted and snorted, but before she could do anything, she realized she couldn't move. What are you doing, Erbai? How dare you lock me up? I can't let you make any more mistakes, said the white-haired youth calmly. You've already broken too many rules. You can't make any more mistakes. Besides, I'm standing right in front of you. If I watch you attack these people, I'll be held responsible as well. Hey, come back with me. The white-haired youth dragged Lin Ru away without another word. At that moment, Lin Ru frowned. That guy's already stronger than a peak immortal king. The white-haired youth who'd been dragging her stopped and walked over to Black Dragon. When he saw the youth return, Black Dragon's heart felt like it was about to explode. After that, he saw the young man tap the center of his brows with his finger before turning his head back. I can't believe I fell for your tricks again, said the youth expressionlessly. The young man said expressionlessly, to prevent you from spouting nonsense again, I'll seal your mouth. Hey, Lin Ru wanted to argue, but no matter what she did, she couldn't open her mouth. She had no choice but to glare at the youth, warning him that Black Dragon's strength truly surpassed the peak immortal king level. There's no point in glaring at me. Just obediently come back with me. Just like that, the two of them disappeared from everyone's line of sight. The instant the youth vanished, the laws of heaven and earth returned to normal. The middle-aged man's arm fell to the ground. Black Dragon clutched his chest, panting violently. Just a little bit more. He died. After a brief moment of panting, Black Dragon began to laugh maniacally. Not far away, the Sacred Race Clan leader looked at him solemnly. Then he saw Black Dragon remove the armor from his body in one move. Boom! He unleashed all his spiritual power. A beam of towering purple light surged out of his body. Almost everyone present, including Ghoulie, felt their throats tighten under the pressure of his aura. Now that the laws of the three realms were gone, no one could restrain him.